Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. We do, however, encourage you to watch with your pets. So, YouTube says we have 7 people watching.
Hello.
With us tonight, we have Andrew.
That's 14 eyeballs. Maybe.
Potentially, yes.
Or 28 if they all wear glasses.
Mage Grey Wolf. And Jenny. And the
Hi, Chad. How are you?
So far, whoever's watching is not revealing themselves, because Andrew is the only one who's posted to the side chat yet. Anyway, yes, today is Pet Fire Safety Day, which actually has 2 levels to it. One is how to avoid the chance that your pets could start a fire, and in the event that you do have a fire, have you made plans for how to get you and your pets out safely?
Yeah, I'm usually pretty watchful about my bird chewing on wires.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's about the most common thing, is that a lot of animals will tend to chew cords. And chewed power cord can easily start a fire, especially like if it's an extension cord. If they just chew off the insulation and it's left laying against a rug, it could start smoldering while you sleep. And, by the time it makes enough smoke for you to be aware of it, you could have a good fire going. So you have to be aware if you have an animal who's prone to doing that, you have to take precautions to make sure that all the cables are up out of the way where they can't get to them. Or, there are also things you can buy now that basically like tubes that you can put around the cables to make it harder for the animals to get at them. I haven't really had to deal with that problem myself. I haven't
Are they
had any
plastic
animals
tubes
that were
or?
doing that. Yeah. Basically, it's a flexible plastic tube. You'll often find them, like at with the office supplies and that. Just about. They were, mostly used to keep computer cables organized.
Tidy.
Yeah, but some of them come up to like 3/4 of an inch in diameter, so you could also run, several power cords through them.
Right. Yep.
But the other thing, of course, to be aware of is, especially if you have cats, things they could knock over that could start fires. I mean, obviously, candles and cats are a potentially dangerous mix. But also quite often, that an animal knocking over a lamp again. Fortunately, as we go to incandescent lights, that's become less of a threat because the bulbs don't heat up nearly as much, or since we've gone to LEDs rather, replacing incandescents, because the LED lights don't heat up nearly as much as the incandescents did, so they're much less likely to start a fire.
Do you know how if the fluorescent bulbs are fire risk-wise?
Fluorescent bulbs usually have like a ballast on the base. There's usually like a ceramic base, and those can get quite hot too. So that ceramic, that ballast could definitely start a fire if it was laying against some fabric or something that's flammable.
Not to mention, if fluorescent bulbs break, there's also a biohazard concern. So, hazardous materials.
Yeah, they do contain an amount of mercury, so the mercury vapor can be hazardous when they break.
are they likely to set fire to anything when they break? Or is it just the ballast?
Well, the ballast is the only part that gets really hot. But, you know,
Right.
I mean, if you have one and you've had it on for an hour or so, you know, just try to put your fingers on that ceramic piece and you'll see you could definitely burn yourself on those.
Well,
I'll
at
have to check it in.
the ends of a fluorescent light, there is a little heating element, which is part of what makes it glow and be a light and everything. It gets the gases going.
Yeah, stick your finger on this, see if it burns.
I'm sure it will, since it's pretty much red hot most of the time.
Yeah, I think Mage was making fun of my advice there.
But
Okay.
you know what I always say. I put it in the chat if somebody wanted to read it or tell me I shouldn't say it over the air.
Yeah, it might upset people. Okay, I see we've got Skits Crasher and Jinzu now. Skits, I did drop you a link on Discord if you want to come in. You know, Jin, I'd be fine with you coming in too. I don't know how I could send you a link, so you'd have to give me a way to connect with you. Okay, so the other part of it is that in the event that you do have a fire, regardless of whether or not the pet caused it, is being able to get them out safely. And, you know, there are frequently PSAs about doing fire drills with your families and that, but they usually say to leave the pets behind, and no. You know, I just can't see leaving them behind if the place is on fire or if something else is going on. So we did actually wind up having a practice one here. I mean, I had already mapped out a plan for us, and we wound up having the building fire alarm go off a few months ago. So we wound up having to run our practice drill when we weren't expecting it, but basically I get Sammy into his carrier and I head out because I'm on the ground floor. The sloth girl's up on the second floor and moves a lot slower. So I just kind of hand him off to her in the hallway, and I'll head up and get Petunia because I can get both of them in their carriers a hell of a lot faster, and I can run stairs faster than most people.
In the case of if I were to have a fire, I could just take my entire bird cage and just pull it out the window that they're sitting in front of.
Yep. Okay, that's a good solid plan. The other thing then that you also need to be aware of is that, you know, once you get them out of the building, you know, your animals you can't really explain to them what's going on. So you should probably have a bug out bag ready for them, you know, just with, you know, their food and, you know, a couple of basic things they're needing. So that if you wind up not being able to, you know, go back home right away, if you've got to stay someplace else for a while, that you've got things that they're used to and you've got the food that they know. So in a strange place, you can try to keep them calm, you know, and it's probably something that maybe keep it in the trunk of your car or something so that you don't have to worry about getting that in an emergency. Although if you feed your pets canned food, the trunk of the car might not be good for that just because the temperature extremes it can suffer in there. So things to think about. I've actually got a bug out pack for the cats that I keep in my storage locker, so it's off-site storage, and I can go over there and pick it up. Which, you know, might be another option for a lot of people that, you know, if you could maybe keep the things in a drawer at your office or something, someplace else that you can get to easily.
It's not just fires. There are other natural disasters that certain areas are prone to as well. Like,
yes, yeah. We before we went live, we were talking a bit about tornadoes
and
you know,
cats knocking things off the table behind you on camera, apparently.
Yeah, I see the kitty on the table behind you there. What is Kitty up to?
think she's about to knock. Oh, she's playing with something. Oh,
Yeah.
she wants that bird that only makes hands when it's in a human hand. It makes noise when it's in a human hand and tweets, and she's been trying to figure that out for months.
Oh,
gonna be
okay.
trying
So
to
she's been trying to get it to activate and doesn't know how you do it.
Oh, it looks like she was trying to test gravity again.
Yeah, I was wondering what that blue cube is, if that was a jar of something that she could dump over.
Oh, it's solid on the inside. I probably should move
Okay.
that to the.
So not going to be a huge mess for you.
Probably should move it to the restroom. But
In hurricanes, that's another thing that I have to worry about.
Sorry, Skits.
No worries.
SteamYard always hides the sixth person
Hello.
behind the toolbar, so I don't see it.
Sneaky, sneaky.
however, for the porpoises in the audio or porpoises in the chat, we don't really have a problem with fire living underwater.
Fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
and Skits brings Kitty with.
Oh,
Her name is Squeaks.
Yeah, with a hurricane, I would have to take my chickens and bring them indoors. I would basically, I have a central spot in the hallway which is basically like the center of the house, where I can just kind of keep everyone.
Ah,
Safe.
yeah, if you have animals that are normally kept outside, that's another issue to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with a hurricane, because, you could be locked down for a couple of days with that.
mm.
That has always amazed me with people with like bigger animals and things like that, like how they take care of them in situations where, it's barely you can take care of yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
usually with a hurricane, once the hurricane passes, you're pretty much done. The aftermath can be a problem though, because you might not have power. Like one of the last hurricanes I was in, and the pipes broke, so we had to boil the water to
Mhm.
get safe water.
Was
And
there any
that's,
flooding problems?
What was that?
Was there any flooding problems?
Not in my particular spot, but there were areas that did flood. Yes.
Yeah, that's basically basic emergency preparedness. You need to be aware of what can happen in your area. I've never lived anywhere that we had hurricanes, but dealt with tornadoes all my life.
Earthquakes and fire here.
There's only been one earthquake in Minnesota in my lifetime. Well, one significant one that I know of. Back in, I think it was like 86 that we got a 5.2.
That's a good size one.
We had an earthquake here not too long ago, but I was on the road. I think it was 4 something on the Richter scale. But I did live through the Washington, D.C. earthquake, which could be felt hundreds of miles away from where it actually was. It was terrible.
Yeah, I was
People
about
nearly
2
lost
to
their
3
balance.
miles away from the epicenter of the 5.2, and about all I really did was rattle the dishes on the shelf.
Actually, but yeah, just make contingency plans for your animals. And Athena, if you're trying to upstage the other cat, you need to go where the camera can see you.
Well, they're not really aware of the camera. They're only after your attention. So, actually, she sees her opponent as being not the other cat, but the keyboard.
Oh, and Squeaks here is like 14, 15 years old and only like 5 pounds. She's a small girl.
Go on up, Athena Porpoise.
Really? She looked bigger than that.
Yeah, she's tiny.
Yeah, Sylvia, the Lavender Lady's cat, is also a tiny one. She's only about 6 pounds. It's like, yeah, even though she's like 4 years old, when I saw her, it's like she looks like a 4 or 5 month old kitten.
Oh, wow.
I had a big cat. He was over 20 pounds. And that was muscle, not fat.
Solid cat.
That's Petunia, Sloth Girl's cat, is close to 20 pounds. But, she's like part Maine Coon. You can really see it. So, yeah, we've had her to a couple of different vets. And, they all say she's perfectly healthy. She's just a big girl.
She's a big girl.
Yep,
All
she's
right.
not fat and her weight doesn't change. So,
And it's a
you know,
healthy
it's not
diet.
like she's
yeah.
putting on weight over the years or anything. My Sammy's only about average size. I think he's about 9 years old now. He's about 8 pounds.
Do you adopt Sammy or rescue or?
Yeah, from a shelter.
Athena's first birthday is coming up.
Who do what?
Athena's first birthday is coming
Oh,
up.
Athena's.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, and I will remind people that next week I will wind up doing my midday stream on Tuesday instead of Wednesday because I've got doctor's appointments on Wednesday and Tuesday's my birthday.
Oh, happy early birthday!
And we just celebrated Bree's birthday today. Hive Mind or Hive Sirens.
Yep.
My birthday was just a week and some change ago.
Oh, Dungeon Queen. Sorry, I didn't see you come in there.
Oh, hey Queen.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So all of you have cats? Is that the deal here? Andrew, did you have,
No.
a cat?
I do not have a cat right now.
Well, I would have dogs as well, except in a small apartment. I think it's kind of unfair to the dog. I think you need to have a yard to have room for them to run.
Yeah, I think my last cat got ate by a coyote.
Oh.
Before Sammy, my last cat got ate by raccoons.
Well,
that's no fun.
Eat your cat before your cat eats you.
I don't think that Sammy would
really
eat my eyeballs without asking permission first. And if he came and poked at me and I didn't answer, he would just assume I was still asleep and come back and try again an hour later.
Oh.
I've never owned a cat as an individual, only as part of my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference for pets, or just don't like animals?
I love animals. I just have enough trouble taking care of myself, let alone another animal as well. I'm wanting to try taking care of isopods and slugs eventually.
Oh,
I have never been without a pet around me.
Yeah, I've pretty much lived with cats in the house my entire life.
I've always been a cat guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love dogs. I love all animals. Just I've always been, since I was a kid, I always have cats.
Yeah, and actually, having the cat around is really part of making sure that I take care of myself.
Oh.
If there was nothing else in the place alive, it's really hard for me to just get myself to do anything. And there are some days that who will feed the cat is the only reason I can find to get out of bed.
Yeah, I've had those days too.
Wow, that's actually hit actually real close to home recently, because Squeaks is I just inherited, and I've been dealing a lot with that issue. But having her there and in the household forces me to get out of the bed, and rather than just being in a depressive mess and watch TV all day, they force me to get out of the bed and feed her and clean the litter box, and which is a great thing, and it just kind of gets me back to getting a routine in my life again.
Which reminds me, I need to get you more litter.
Mage, I know there was a Florida county that's been quarantined about these giant snails. Can you run over there and mail one to Sloth Girl?
It's a couple of counties above me.
Just a couple.
I actually don't think that you're allowed to own those in Minnesota or Wisconsin.
Yeah, probably not. I know there's a lot of restrictions about having any exotic animals, largely because they want to avoid the problems that Florida is having. That these things get released into wild, and if they manage to be enough of them that they can actually breed in the wild, other things get screwed over.
Well, I think snails are one of those animals that's hermaphroditic and can fertilize itself.
Yep.
Yes, many species of snails can.
So it would not be a good thing to have anywhere near a place you don't want them.
Yeah.
Because people are just too irresponsible.
What's this I'm hearing about these things being full of brain parasites?
Lovely.
Yep. So if you tell a snail to go fuck themselves, they'll just be like, okay, yeah, normal night.
Yeah.
Then again, being in Florida, most people are not in danger of brain parasites.
Okay, now are you speaking of brain parasites that can infect humans? Or I know there actually is a type of brain parasite that affects snails that basically turns them into zombies.
I thought that was a fungus that affected ants.
That's a different one.
A lot of zombie things
Yep.
out there.
Yeah,
Plenty
there
of
is
zombie
one that
parasites.
affects some snails. Yeah, there is one that affects some snails that actually will like make them climb up to a high place and actually like make their eye stalks like illuminated, so they're attracting birds' attention to come and eat them.
I've
Because
seen them.
that's
They
how
look like
these
they're
things
bulging.
spread, is that the birds eat them, and then when the birds crap, it releases these bacteria somewhere else.
Oh,
Where
terrifying.
What you are referring to is the brain-eating amoeba.
Amoeba.
yes, okay, that's I couldn't quite
That sounds
remember.
right.
The brain-eating amoeba is a terrifying concept. You catch them by water getting up your nose.
Oh, is this
Okay.
when you go swimming? And
And
okay.
as you know, if it's a body of water that happens to have these, but it's
Yep.
really rare, so don't fear it. There's only been like 150 some cases in the last 20, 30 years or something like that. But once you get it, it's probably going to be fatal.
Well,
Okay, looks
yeah,
like
it seems like we hear of at least 1 or 2 cases every summer when it warms up.
okay,
No,
looks
And
like
actually, through this last heat wave, I had heard of one report of it.
it looks like these things are transmitting a rat lungworm parasites, which can invade the human and central nervous system and cause a type of meningitis.
Interesting.
Well, we do have some parasite found in the MAGA hat that seems to cause zombification.
I wonder with climate change and global warming, if these parasites and amoeba, which I would assume chill out in the warmer waters, are going to increase.
Well, that's the amoeba in the lakes around here that generally they're pretty much dormant as long as the water stays cool. It's just when the water starts heating up that then they go into, just massively, reproducing at a much higher rate. So that if we have warmer temperatures that tend to keep the lakes slightly warmer, we'll be seeing more cases of them.
I just have to wonder, are we ever going to see cases of chronic wasting disease in humans?
We already do. Jacob's Crutchfield.
No, chronic wasting disease is a prion disease that affects elk. It's
Jacob's
a different prion
Crutchfield
disease.
is a prion disease that affects human beings.
But I'm saying chronic wasting disease is not found in humans yet. It's a different prion disease that's found in elks and.
Well, they all have the same pathway of exposure and death, so I consider them pretty much the same in that sense. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, maybe not directly related, but they still behave the same.
Yeah, they're prion diseases.
They're both prions, like just kind of like mad cow.
Well, chronic wasting disease. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say prions are a fucking scary.
Oh yeah.
Item. You can't even really call them a form of life. They're just a protein.
It's just a misfolded protein.
Don't eat brains.
Well, but they get into the whole nervous system.
Oh, okay.
But chronic wasting disease actually affects you to the point where you can't process food anymore, so it's a bit different.
Ooh.
Or affects the elk that way.
Always fatal, contagious. Oh God.
It's not
reindeer too.
Yeah, I think the chronic wasting disease that you're talking about, I think that a few years ago they had found 1 or 2 cases of it in deer in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and deer too.
There's been thousands and thousands of cases of deer in Wisconsin.
Oh, has it become that common?
Oh God, every county in the state has had it. It's everywhere. It's just here in our county here, Houston County, Minnesota. They take about 3,600 deer per season, licensed legal deer. There's probably more taken. There certainly are a whole bunch of extras added by car, and I heard it was something like 20 something % of them are infected.
Oh,
they do
wow.
They do testing every year during the season. You bring your deer in to get it tagged, and they it used to be mandatory for every deer, but now they request that you have it tested, and most hunters do, but there are people who are real pricks.
Yeah. They like take a biopsy of each deer, and so they can track how common it is in the population.
And is this for the chronic waste that you're?
Yeah,
Yeah.
CWD.
Yeah, because I was just reading here that although there's no evidence showing that it's transmitted to humans, it looks like there is evidence that it's transmitted to closely related primates. So that's something to somewhat be worried about.
Well, the problem with prion diseases is they take so long for symptoms to show.
That makes sense because it's got to go through your entire nervous system, right?
Well, it takes years. Like Huru was like decades after. I think that's the case for mad cow disease. So, which is why if you donate blood, you're asked questions about were you ever in Europe in the 1980s?
Mm-hmm.
No, rabies is bad like that too. It's a virus rather than a prion, but still no good. And it takes a long time for the symptoms to show, and by the time they kind of do show, you're pretty screwed.
The other really freaky thing about prions is they're almost impossible to kill. Even heat that would kill any other organic thing doesn't kill these because they're not alive. It's just a protein.
You'd have to get to the temperature where you'd have to denature that particular protein, which is probably pretty damn high. Yeah,
that's what's scary about them to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I really don't even want to eat venison anymore, just because of the chance you're taking.
Interesting.
You'll only drink it.
Well, there's with my uncles and cousins, there's a bunch of hunters in my family, so pretty much there's 1 or 2 deer hanging in my mom's garage at the end of every season.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of waterfowl hunting and things like that, and I've been, elk and deer hunting a few times. Never actually shot a deer or elk, but I used to do a lot of waterfowl hunting. And sometimes when you open up, when you're cleaning the birds, and you're like, oh, this one's just filled with parasites and tumors, and you're like, I'm not going to eat this one.
Yeah.
I know how to handle a gun, but I've only used it like for shooting tin cans. I couldn't shoot anything that was alive.
It is slightly heartbreaking sometimes.
So I have to wonder, what is this? How many of us actually do have the stickers that there are pets in here asking the firemen to save it if a fire does break out?
To be honest, I do not currently have one.
Granted, I just got my cat 2 weeks ago. But that's a good idea to have.
I don't have one, but I just thought about it.
It's a good idea.
But for a 2-bedroom apartment, I also think if something does break out, I can probably get the cat fairly quickly.
Yeah, well, that's the thing for us, that they're small apartments, so even Petunia, it's basically she's under the bed or under the couch. She doesn't have a lot of other options.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'd probably have to get the bird out pretty quickly, or else it was just going to die from the smoke anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, birds
are pretty sensitive.
Yep.
I did get a special, since I live on the second story, like apartments, I did get in case the fire's at the front of the apartment, I can't get to the door. I have a thing that you hook onto your balcony and toss over, and ladders, drop down. This metal set of ladders.
Like a rope ladder?
Yeah. So okay, at least I can get out. I mean, I may hurt myself because it's a pretty far ways down, but still.
So you'd be hurt and alive, which is
better than very, very hurt and dead.
Yeah, like I say, this building can't burn too fast, but it's more a question of the insides of the building. How fast can the carpet burn and things like that?
Yeah, I have no idea how old this place is and how flammable everything is.
Yeah, this one's from probably the late 70s. I'm not sure exactly what year it was built. But they have done updates on it. We've got a full sprinkler system in here.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Here in Northern California, it's like it's fire. It's bad. So fortunately, being within like the city-ish areas, they protect that from a lot of the wildfires and everything. But there's a lot of fires around here.
Yeah, my house was built in the 1950s, but there's been a lot of updates since then.
Yeah, it's so many homeowner and big apartment owners. They get upset when they have to update their apartments for fire safety codes, but the first time a fire breaks out and that alarm saves them lives and lots of money, then they really do appreciate it.
Don't think that deer stray is that's terrible, Sloth Girl. I would also like to point out that the sinister porpoise is on the left and the dexterous porpoise is on. Oh, dexterous parasite now is on the right.
Now. Oh yeah, that's right. I was trying to find those stickers. Is there a place to get those stickers, or whatever?
Hey, I was born in 1979.
Actually, they used to give them out at a lot of the fire stations.
Oh, I should go to my local fire station.
Not too many fires here, but every once in a while I see one of the local police officers catch someone speeding. And you'll see the lights go. Because there's some abandoned factory outside of the house, and they like to sit there. I'm not sure what it was used for. No, 1979.
Well,
Building
we're
is
about
all
half a
planned.
mile from the hospital, so we've got ambulances coming by here several times a day, and medical evac copters are not uncommon.
Another good reason not to have a dog around. I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate the sirens and everything.
Well, I would have gotten a dog if there were small ones available when I got Athena.
Nice.
Well, there are two very yappy dogs across the hall from me that basically will go off anytime anyone's in the corridor. So that has completely quelched any curiosity Sammy had about going out in the hallway.
Nice. Yeah, they're about to have a music festival somewhere up here in Northern California called
Burning Man.
Wolfstock.
Yeah, this last day I was taking care of this dog. The cleaning lady showed up, and I was having to keep the dog calm while she was vacuuming.
My German Shepherd was not afraid of the vacuum cleaner. She would attack it, and while it's running, she would grab it with her mouth and try
Jesus.
to start.
That's bad.
I'd be worried for the vacuum cleaner.
He was a pretty tough dog.
Seriously.
She's trying to protect you from it.
There you go.
Loud growling monster. She's going to protect you.
Since I was vacuuming for the first time around my new kitty here, and I was kind of concerned that she, because she's still adapting. I didn't want to freak her out too much, so I started vacuuming, and she crawled out from under the bed. Just as it's vacuuming, you start sniffing it and pawing at it. I'm like, okay, she's cool with it, I guess. Good girl.
Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I have a robotic vacuum cleaner, and sometimes Athena's afraid of it, and sometimes she thinks it's a toy. And sometimes she also oscillates between it, depending on whether it's coming back, going towards her or away from her.
It's attacking. It's retreating.
More than anything, I get concerned about Sammy getting bored.
Yeah. Time for some more toys.
Oh yeah, he's got plenty. Actually, it's one of the funny things with vacuuming. It's kind of fun because I have to gather up all of his toys and I throw them in one of the can flats from the supermarket. So then over the next couple of days, it's kind of funny to see which ones he picks first.
Yeah, actually, I need to get more toys for my bird. And in fact, another video I'm thinking about doing is how to convert some of the stuff I'm growing into bird toys.
Yeah. I have to get some more noisy toys for Athena.
Well, the main thing I've got for Sammy is I've got a pop gun that shoots little foam balls.
Nice.
So yeah, sometimes even when I'm streaming here, I'll just pop a couple of shots down the hallway for him to chase them.
And that's with a magazine of 10.
Yeah, it holds 10 shots. And I've got a couple of reloads, so I've got a tub with about 40 shots in it, so I don't have to go collect them for a while.
Nice.
The thing is, I'm pretty sure Indiana's going to outlaw low capacity magazines like that.
Low cap. Oh. They all got to be high caps.
Remember, Indiana's a red state.
Well,
What? That's
right
less
now
than 30
Sammy's
rounds?
kind of. Huh?
Sammy's kind of.
Yeah, but Indiana still currently allows abortion, apparently.
That would surprise me.
Yeah.
Well, they still allow abortions, and yet they're saying that they're going to arrest the doctor who performed one on that 10-year-old girl.
10-year-old girl.
A 10-year-old girl in Ohio was raped, and Ohio has already prohibited abortions. So her doctor called the doctor in Indiana so that somebody could drive her to Indiana to get the procedure done.
Oh my God.
Yep.
And now the state of Indiana has said that they're going to prosecute the doctor who performed the abortion, even though abortions are still legal in Indiana.
And
And the
apparently,
Republican,
some of these people
Go
are
on.
apparently trying to say that this little girl doesn't exist.
the Republicans, yeah, but and then the Republican who said that was like, "Oh, we're so glad she's okay," when she was like reported,
Yeah, they did.
quote unquote, unfound.
She does exist.
Well, first off, they have no leg to stand on, even though they've tried to prosecute some Indian woman years ago for a miscarriage. And two, Indiana is going to have to change its law before they can do that. And convicting someone for an ex post facto law is against the Constitution.
Well, from what I got, apparently, while they can't technically get him for the abortion, they're trying to get him for not reporting that he was treating a sexual abuse victim or something like that.
Oh, they're trying to get him on like a mandatory.
Oh,
Come on.
Which proves
Yeah,
that
so
they're not really
basically, you know,
interested. Which proves
Yeah.
they're not really interested in abortion. They're just interested in harassing people and standing up and pounding their chests and all that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody found a way around their idiocy, so they're trying to find a way to persecute them.
well, if you made
There's a group. Let's see what state is this in. I think it might be Texas or Florida. Florida seems most likely to my memory. It's a little coalition that's developing, and it's made up of people of the Islamic faith, Jewish people,
And the
and
Unitarian.
atheists.
An
Oh,
atheist,
that
you
must
said?
be something different
They
than I'm
have
thinking of.
discovered that they have mutual criteria and beliefs about abortion and how it is sanctioned by their religion, and having a ban of it is against their religion. And so they are going to sue for the First Amendment issues of let's see, which one did they say? Which clause? One of the clauses in the First Amendment about freedom of religion.
It's one of the 5 freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment: religion, press, right
So
to assemble.
is banning abortion against the Church of Prismatic Light? I would imagine it would be.
They did say in their 7 tenets that they believe people have a right to bodily autonomy, and that would include.
I'd count that.
Yep.
Little kitty.
And that's really what the issue is that
Hello.
the whole thing is that the government wants to rule your body.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well,
you fucking
and-
have no business telling me what I can do with my body, period.
Yeah. Aren't the Republicans the ones always screaming about small government and personal liberties? And
Freedom and crap.
Yeah, and yet they want to tell women what health care they can have.
Well, when you get down to it, they want to tell everybody what health care they can have.
Well, there's a libertarian branch of the Republican Party, and there are libertarians that actually do that, and there's a branch of Republicans who just don't care. But there are a lot of people who think they're libertarians who aren't, largely because Alex Jones keeps calling himself one.
Yeah, as Sloth Girl says, the anti-abortionists use the line, "It's all about the children." So isn't the 10-year-old a child?
Right.
You know, and just why are we hearing more about the 10-year-old and hearing virtually nothing about the guy who got her pregnant?
Right.
You know,
Where's this piece
shouldn't
of
that
crap?
be the big scandal?
Because only one of them is likely to vote Republican.
True.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
able to vote currently.
This is not an issue that affects me directly, but I know.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess they are trying to use this anti-abortion ban to ban gender-affirming care, which I don't even know how.
Yeah, it
Well,
absolutely does affect you, not because it has anything to do with abortion, but because the law was based on the concept of privacy and the right to bodily autonomy.
Yep.
And if you have no right to bodily autonomy, they can tell you're not allowed to be a trans person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things that
I
they're
mean-
trying to push along with the anti-abortion stuff, you know, is which treatments doctors can prescribe. And
Oh,
they are
man.
heavily against the doctors being able to prescribe female hormones for anyone, even for cishet women who might need them.
And we also have Texas sues over White House guidance on providing emergency abortions.
Yeah, that's probably just going to get dismissed.
What do the Republicans have against like menopausal women having HRT?
Because trans people can get it.
Yeah, they
They
just don't. They don't want the drugs to even be produced. They want to make it illegal to
Right.
manufacture them.
They're
Well,
not.
notice
Even
they
though-
haven't said anything about testosterone.
I think Kitty wanted to say
They'll-
something.
They'll fuck over as many people as they can if they can just fuck over the trans people. Any
they're
other
not-
minorities they want to.
They're
So
not
far,
thinking.
they only seem to be wanting to fuck over trans women.
They're not thinking about the long-term consequences of their actions and who else they affect. It's just this plays well with our base. It's an election year. Let's do this. And this wasn't even any elected Republican. This was the Supreme Court. These were Catholics voting their religious beliefs. That's it.
To be fair, I believe they should all be impeached because, I mean, they said stare decisis. They said that it was settled law, it was precedent, and then the first chance they got, they decided to throw it out the window.
You know.
What's the
agree.
next precedent case law they're going to toss out?
Well, you know,
Well-
and the other thing about it that isn't being mentioned is that they didn't even wait for their first chance to do it. It's not like they waited for a case to be brought before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just arbitrarily decided that we're going to review something from 50 years ago and throw it out.
No, that's not correct.
No, that's not what
There
happened.
was a suit that came up. And
But it
Sways of the courts.
it wasn't one that would have outlawed abortion. In fact, Justice Roberts, essentially it was a 15-week abortion ban, which would reduce, because currently, or well, previously under Roe, it was around 22 to 24 weeks. Beyond that, you had to have a legitimate medical reason for having the abortion. But before that, it was pretty much, whatever. There was a case out of, I believe, Texas, but it might have been a different state, and it's the Dobbs case that went to the Supreme Court, and it was for a 15-week
Missouri.
abortion ban. Thank you, Missouri. And
Mississippi.
Justice
One of those two.
Justice Roberts was fine with essentially saying, yeah, sure, we can ban abortion, after 15 weeks. That was the moderate position, but they decided to go above and beyond and throw out the entire precedent instead of just ruling on the case before them.
Yeah, and Amy Coney Barrett belongs to a Catholic cult that was the basis for The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
Super.
And they lied under oath.
Well, there is actually a
But-
petition. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
If you go to moveon.org, if you haven't already assigned it, there's a petition to impeach Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, no, Clarence Thomas, like, considering the fact that he tried to cover up his wife, Ginny Thomas's involvement in the January 6th insurrection, he was the only dissenting justice saying that, no, we're not going to allow this evidence to be seen because that evidence implicated his wife. He's also the one that went above and beyond saying that now that we don't have the right to privacy, he wants to essentially revisit, Obergefell and the case that was contraception and the case for same-sex marriage, the case for sodomy laws and contraception. He's the one that says, like, we're going to continue on that. What he did deliberately leave out was, along the same basis of privacy, the case that legalized interracial marriage also was along that same
Loving?
vein. But yes, Loving v. Virginia, and he left that one out because he's in an interracial marriage, but all the others, want to throw out. And I want to say this has emboldened religious zealots across the country. Just recently, after the Supreme Court case came down, there was a married woman who went to a Walgreens in, I believe, Wisconsin, and she had forgotten her oral contraception, her birth control at home. She was on vacation with her husband. She went into the Walgreens to buy condoms, and the clerk refused to sell them to her on religious grounds.
I think that was a Walmart, not a Walgreens.
No, it was a Walgreens. And Walgreens actually sided with the employee.
Yeah, I saw
They had
that.
someone else bring her out, but they sided with the employee.
Well, and that's a
I'm
fucked
sorry.
up policy because, if you've got a pharmacist who decides not to fill your prescription, there's not going to be a second pharmacist there to do it.
And that was actually something else that was brought up in the story. There was a woman who was denied her birth control. Like, at first it was, we can't fill this, and, you don't have any more refills left. But then she actually had 4 refills, and it went from being, out of stock to waiting on, like, a doctor response, and basically found out that several other women were having their medications tampered with in the system to basically prevent them from being able to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been the Walmart one that I was thinking of.
That might have been.
Because the corporation came down on the side of the customer that said that we have no policy that allows them to do this.
I
didn't hear what happened to the employees, but
if your pharmacist was like a Christian Scientist, like, sorry, I refuse to fill your antibiotics. Like, it's
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I believe, like, even though I am personally an anti-theist and I think that religion does far more harm than good, I also believe in freedom and personal liberty. And I believe you should be able to have whatever religious beliefs you want as long as you're not harming anyone. Obviously, no child sacrifice allowed. But
darn it.
if you have a job and your religious beliefs prevent you from doing that job, I'm sorry. Find a different job.
Yeah.
If you work at a
you
pharmacy,
just picked the wrong career.
if you work at there's other retail. You could go work at a grocery store. It's the same retail work, or work at a clothing shop. And it's no different. Like being a cashier at a pharmacy, at a CVS, at a Walgreens, what have you, you cannot then argue it is against your religious beliefs in order to sell contraception or protection to somebody.
You knew that was part of the job when you were hired.
Remember, there's a reason why you don't find Amish software engineers.
Or Amish pilots.
makes sense.
Kind of reminds me of this guy. He apparently, I can't remember what religion he was, but he had it was one of the ones that are against and Stephen having touched pork. So he was trying to do the cashier thing, and somebody was buying pork. So he's like, I can't do this because it's pork. So they moved him off of the cashier and put him out to collect carts. And he still complained, and well, the cart might have touched pork, so I can't do this.
Yeah.
In the wrong job then.
Seriously.
Yeah, Sloth Girl, just got her hysterectomy, and that she's saying, I'm thankful I got it when I did. I would literally have bled to death otherwise.
Oh,
And
man.
yeah, it's
I'd
going to
still
be
need
harder
one.
for women to get life-saving procedures.
I am waiting for the opportunity to get a much needed hysterectomy. Basically, after my son was born, I had sterilization surgery. I was fortunate because of my chronic illness, my disability. The doctor was willing to do it, but usually you have to be 35 or have at least 2 kids in order to get sterilization surgery in the South. And I was able to get the sterilization surgery. However, and I don't blame the doctor for this because he could not have known, but the type of procedure they did for my sterilization, not long after I got it done, a few months, 6 months or so, it got a black box warning, and then it got pulled because the company lied to the FDA about its safety and efficacy, and they were fudging documentation. And I currently have metal coils in my fallopian tubes that if I turn a certain way, I can actually feel them stabbing into me. And I had an endometrial ablation at the same time. And I always roll a nat 1 when it comes to health stuff. And I am one of the 20% or so of women that have their ablations fail. And it's called late onset endometrial ablation failure. And so an endometrial ablation, it's basically like this balloon almost that they put inside of your uterus, and it expands to press up against the wall of your uterus, and then they use an electrical current to burn your endometrial lining, which is what grows and sheds every month for your menstrual cycle. Without that lining, no more periods, because I had very debilitating periods.
So it's like
And
cauterizing the uterus.
kind of. But when you have a failure, it's basically there's a spot, a couple of spots that the lining wasn't burned away completely, but scar tissue ends up building over it. So the lining wants to shed, but there's scar tissue preventing it. So it feels like Freddy Krueger is shredding my uterus every 2 or so weeks for a couple of days. I started getting some cramping after a couple of years. Like, it was several years. Like, I had the procedure done in 2014, and then in 2019, I started getting some cramping, and it wasn't too bad, and it was cyclical. I was like, it's fine, it's whatever, I can deal with it. And this is on top of the coils, like in my fallopian tubes. That's a whole other thing. But then in the beginning, in January of 2020, right before COVID got ridiculous, I had some more serious complications. Ended up having to go to the hospital because I was bleeding so much. And I think that might have been some tearing actually that was done, and a combination of things. But it was the first time I'd actually had any bleeding, and it was very, very bad. It was very scary. Um, and thankfully that was kind of a one-time thing, like, but I was bleeding for 3 weeks from my birthday in December into January after New Year's. And then it got so bad that at one point I bent over and I almost passed out, and I could just feel blood running out of me, which is not normal when you have a menstrual period. Like, you will feel like dampness, wetness, but you don't actually feel like it's gushing out of you. That's not normal. And so I went to the hospital and then had to schedule with an OBGYN, but finding one that does hysterectomy procedures and was willing to do one on someone under 35, I couldn't do it. And then COVID happened, and I haven't tried since. I'm now 35, and I do need to look into getting this procedure, but it's gonna fuck me up for weeks, like it's a long recovery from a hysterectomy, and I am not looking forward to it. I'm really not, but now that things are settling down a little bit, COVID's become a little bit more endemic. I'm still terrified. I have not caught COVID yet, but I am, worried that I will end up catching it if I do decide to go in for this procedure. So like I've been kind of putting it off a little bit because of it, but it's getting to the point where I'm tired of feeling like my uterus is going through a meat grinder constantly. You know, it's exhausting. I deal with chronic pain all the time anyway, and anything that adds to it just overall decreases my quality of life. So while I can't get pregnant, I am, excuse you, I am, having issues and will need to get that surgical procedure. The sooner the better.
Question, in part, and forgive my ignorance, when you say sterilization, is that a tubal ligation or is that something else?
So technically the procedure that they did on me was not a tubal ligation. It was a type of sterilization procedure. It was called Escher, ESSURE. And there was actually, I didn't know about it until after the fact, but there was like a class action suit, and you can look into it. They put metal coils in your fallopian tubes that are supposed to then block them with scar tissue. And the company that manufactured that particular medical device, lied to the FDA about the trials and the safety that they did. And, so it is no longer done. It got a black box warning after it was done to me, and then it got pulled from the market. A black box warning basically says that this is dangerous.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, of course. No, I'm an open book. And I think that, there's a lot of stigma around women's reproductive health and around these types of things. And it's important to talk about them. Just like I had an abortion in 2012, and it wasn't a traumatizing experience for me. It was the right decision, and I felt relief after the fact. What did traumatize me, again, and I've said this before, because I live in the state of Florida, they required me to go through something called a transvaginal ultrasound, which is it's invasive and not necessary. Like, I've had to have them done before for medical reasons, but just requiring an ultrasound or a sonogram is fucked up,
Yeah.
Because it's meant to guilt you into not wanting to actually go through with the procedure. But
look at the baby.
The extra barbaric, and it is essentially a giant wand that gets shoved inside of you. And as a survivor of SA, that was traumatizing. The actual procedure was not, and I have no regrets. It was absolutely the right thing. And like I said, I felt so much relief afterwards. I had just escaped an abusive marriage.
The damn thing about transvaginal ultrasound is that what they needed you to look at, or what they wanted to guilt you with, could have been accomplished with a standard ultrasound, and they know it.
They absolutely do.
It's purely an act of torture.
I can
Sounds like legally mandated, right?
It is. It is. At least I consider it such. But ultimately, making you see the ultrasound is a way to guilt you into it. I do understand that they do need to do an ultrasound in order to essentially see, rough gestational age, because they can tell by the size of the blob about how old or how far along the pregnancy is. So I understand that, but they essentially make you have to sign a thing saying that, you didn't want to look at it, like that, to cover their own asses, because they, according to the law, you're allowed to opt out of looking at it, but you have to actually sign something, further guilt tripping you into, feeling bad or shame for what you're doing.
It should also be noted that a lot of the personnel who are required to do this kind of stuff go home at night with this horrible guilt that they are forced to do these terrible things to women that they don't want to do, that they know are unnecessary, but they're required to because of some stupid fucking ass law.
But it's not just medical professionals who have to deal with laws that don't make any sense, because I've heard teachers complain about sex education laws, like, I don't agree with this, but this is what I have to say because this is what the state says I have to say.
Yeah, I believe I remember watching something, I think it was on the Colbert Report, where they went into some of the Planned Parenthoods out in the South, where they're forced to say some things that are just not true. and the nurse or whoever was, they'd say, "Hey, I have to tell you this. It's not my opinion. It's not true. It's not my personal opinion. The state is making me say this. They can't tell me to not say my personal opinion, but this is what they want me to tell you." And they go off on the the spiel, blah 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 blah. And because a lot of them don't agree with it. Most of them don't agree with it.
Well, a lot of people don't even know what Planned Parenthood actually does. They think it's an abortion mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, abortion is only something like 3% of the service they provide.
If
Well,
that,
that's a
That
national
most of what
figure.
they provide is prenatal services for pregnant women.
That 3% is a national figure. There are some Planned Parenthoods that are located in such and such a place that they are the only game in town, and they do perform a large number of DNCs.
Yeah, well, as you say, sometimes they could be the only place in the state that is, willing to do the procedure.
When I worked at St. Michael's Hospital in Milwaukee, which no longer exists, the building was even torn down. We would get a surgery schedule every day. There was a new surgery schedule, and it was posted up on everybody's bulletin board in every nurse's station. It was required. And every day I would look at it and I would count frequently a dozen or more DNCs, which is the fancy medical abbreviations for an abortion.
Okay.
And this is a Catholic hospital. And if they called it an abortion, they couldn't do it. But if they called it a DNC, they could.
All right.
What's
Unrelated
It's
question.
weird.
Purple. That is the transvaginal ultrasound wand that they shove inside of you.
I feel inadequate.
And they have to put a condom-like thing on it.
God.
But that, instead of just putting a little thing that you've all seen the thing with the gel and across the belly, it's like the little handheld thing.
Yeah.
They do it that way, but instead that's
Is there,
what they want women to go through
is
this.
there any advantage to that? Is there any medical necessity to
There's
that?
absolutely no medical necessity for it.
I've had one also, and
Now, at least not for abortion. There are, if you have ovarian cysts, if you're having issues with the uterus, I've had them since then because of the problems with my uterus. So, there are medical reasons to do it, but this case is not. They could absolutely just get it done with the one across the belly because they just need to check rough size to be able to guesstimate gestational age, how far along the pregnancy is.
Are they expecting you to fall in love with it? Because I've had thyroid ultrasounds done. It doesn't look like anything I'd recognize. It's just
about shame. I mean, it's shame. It's removing autonomy. It's invasive and uncomfortable. I'm not going to say it hurts because it doesn't hurt. But it is incredibly uncomfortable to have that wand shoved inside of you.
Yeah.
And when there's no need, it's just adding trauma.
Any woman knows how humiliating a pelvic exam is. I don't care how good your doctor is, how gentle they are. It's just a fucking humiliating thing. And you are absolutely vulnerable, and you feel like a prisoner and a subject of torture. Even for just a standard OBGYN exam, okay? And so when they start bringing in tools like this, it's just, I mean, basically that's a big fucking dildo that the doctor's going to come at you and shove it as far as they can in there to do their job, and it's just no goddamn fun.
I wonder how quick they
isn't
go.
the standard for medicine supposed to be to use the least invasive procedure possible to get the information they need?
Yes, it is, but
they started
legislation
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the legislators, most of those people, if you were to ask them how many uteruses does a woman have, how many fallopian tubes, how many ovaries, where's the clitoris, they wouldn't be able to tell you any of those.
But if they
there's legislators who have still said stupid things like, well, a woman can't get pregnant during a rape because the body has ways of shutting all that down.
Oh my God.
Or thinking that it's possible medically to essentially take an ectopic pregnancy, which, if not treated, is always fatal because it ruptures your fallopian tube and then you die of internal hemorrhaging, and transplant it to the uterus. There are actually legislators right now trying to write laws that say if in the case of an ectopic pregnancy you have to try to reimplant it, which is not something that science can even do.
And I'm just wondering if they started using tools like that when doing guys' prostate exams, how quickly they would want to change their tune.
They'd change their tune if you swung it the other way and said, okay, well, we'll do forced vasectomies from the time that a man becomes of age and goes through puberty. He's forced to get a vasectomy, and
Kitty,
they're reversible.
Kitty, do you know how a man gets a prostate exam?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just checking.
But if you were to flip the script and say, oh, well, until, it can be proven that a man can provide for a pregnancy that he could cause, because men could cause multiple pregnancies every single day, I mean, no man's going to be having that much sex, but theoretically it is possible for a man to impregnate multiple women a day. So it makes sense to cut that spigot off at the source. And if you're going to start legislating the bodies of people, it should be men being forced to get vasectomies as opposed to women being denied abortions.
Yeah, and as DNC is saying here or Dragon Queen saying, the DNCs are not just for abortions, they're also after a woman has had a miscarriage. So again, this is just medical help that some women, some cis-het straight white women are going to need, that they're going to be told that they can't get because of some fucking stupid ass law that was made without consulting any doctors.
But you're expecting these people to read science text or studies when they can't even read the WPATH standards that say transgender children do not get surgery. And that's not an
what I suggest people
level.
do is you go to any Republican that is campaigning and you go to one of their meet and greets and question and answer little community meetings, and you ask them things like this. Ask them, how many fallopian tubes are there? How often does a woman ovulate? Where's the clitoris located? Ask them these things. Can a woman get pregnant when they're raped? Just ask them these things. Put them on the spot. Get people to realize that these fuckers are making decisions, lifelong decisions for people, and they don't know a thing about what they're doing.
Unfortunately, the people that are most supportive of those decisions, the forced birthers, they don't care, because to them it's about saving unborn life.
Yeah, but there's more of us than there are of them. And we got to get people who are not the forced birthers to stand up and say, no, we've had enough.
Yeah, well, the first thing we need to do is during the midterm elections, we need to get everyone out to vote and get as many of these Republicans out of office as possible.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, the people on the left are the ones who tend to decide that, it doesn't really matter if they vote. And we need to convince a lot of them otherwise, because the Republicans are still in a position to take over both houses of Congress in this election.
Terrifying.
You want to see the thing where Kavanaugh was traced out of the Morton Steakhouse?
Yeah.
I loved the snarky Twitter comments after that. It was like, well, maybe if you didn't want to be chased out of the steakhouse, you should have dined in a different state.
Love it.
Or maybe he shouldn't have publicly been an asshole for the last several years.
Or maybe, don't lie under oath. I mean, Bill Clinton was a creep, but I don't think he should have ever been put in a position to perjure himself, but they did try to get rid of him for perjury. They tried to impeach him for perjury. So why the fuck are we not doing that for the Supreme Court justices that in their confirmation hearings very clearly and succinctly said that Roe v. Wade was settled law. It was precedent. Stare decisis.
First opportunity that they could.
And again, there wasn't even a case in front of him that was a full abortion ban. It was a 15-week abortion ban, which 90% of abortions occur before 15 weeks. Like, I think it's like 89% occur, before 15 weeks. And those that occur after that, you're talking the other 11% is split up, where about 8% occurred between like 9 and 24 weeks, or 15 and 24 weeks. And the ones that occurred, later in the pregnancy, they have this idea in their head, just like Reagan had people thinking of the welfare queen that was just shitting out kids for a government check. They have this idea that women will go and they'll be 8.5 months pregnant and say, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want to be a mom. Let's cut this thing out of me. That's not what happens. Anytime you have a third trimester abortion, it's traumatic, because either they couldn't get an abortion before that for a myriad of reasons, and they had been raped or a victim of incest, like maybe they hid it or they're in an abusive situation. But I've known women that have had third trimester abortions, and it was devastating because it was a wanted child. They had a baby room set up, they had a name picked out, but it was a non-viable pregnancy.
What
And
people?
that's
Oh, I'm sorry.
sad.
What
Well,
people
and I
need-
think
what
Oh,
people
go
need
ahead,
to
Jenny.
understand about gestation and trimesters and all this kind of stuff is science tends to look at 24 weeks, or did looked at 24 weeks as the period of viability. That if a fetus is over 24 weeks, it could probably live in intensive neonatal intensive care unit. They've recently dropped that. I don't think they actually have a written regulation, but there's places that say we can save a baby at 23 and 22 weeks. If a woman is getting an abortion after 15 weeks, it is because of serious viability issues with the child, that they're not going to make it, that it's some awful brain damage.
Like hydrocephaly.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
well,
And then the baby will die before it even gets to the point of delivery. But the woman is made to carry that dead child for weeks and weeks and weeks, knowing that when it comes out, it's going to be dead. And that is like,
Horrific.
what kind of torture is this?
well, like Jenny was saying about, women who are having it in the third trimester, are almost always going to be women who really wanted that baby and something went horribly wrong. Any woman who doesn't want the baby would have made a decision before that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a female, but I can't imagine someone's like, I'm gonna put this off until the last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can understand that it's a very emotional thing, and that, a woman's not going to make a snap decision and go in and get the abortion. This is a decision that she's probably going to mull over for at least several weeks to decide if it's the right thing.
And it can't be an easy decision, regardless.
I mean, it was an easy decision for me, but I was very early on. I was before 15 weeks. And I had just recently escaped an abusive marriage. I was only about 90 pounds. I was in a very bad place emotionally, physically, mentally. Like, surviving domestic violence, will damage you. And I could not take care of myself. And there was no way I could take care of a child at that point. And to make matters worse, because I am disabled, even when I had a pregnancy that I wanted, which I have a son who's 8 years old now, and that pregnancy wrecked me. It was high risk, and there were times I felt like I was dying, and it permanently exacerbated my condition. Like, I am worse off post pregnancy than I was before. I don't have any regrets. I have my child and I'm happy, but even with a planned pregnancy, it was a planned C-section. He was full term, but he still spent 4 weeks in the NICU. And another thing that they don't consider, we don't have universal health care in this country. Having a no complications healthy child costs tens of thousands of dollars. In my case, I had insurance and it should have been covered, but the hospital that I had him in did not have a NICU facility that could keep my child alive. So we had to be rushed by ambulance to another hospital, and the insurance company said that counted as a separate stay and left me with a $130,000 bill to keep my child alive.
And the
And
thing
kept on
is,
6,000 for the ambulance.
I think you can't go bankrupt, or bankrupt won't count against you for medical debt anymore. I think that changed a couple of years ago, but they don't care that this is happening.
Well, medical
Like-
debt doesn't count against you when you're going to get an apartment. However, the number one cause of bankruptcy for Americans is actually medical debt.
Yep. It's the most common cause, and over 80% of the fundraisers on GoFundMe are for people trying to pay medical bills.
I am one of those people that lost everything because of medical bills.
My family lost their house. My dad was a sole breadwinner and was in a motorcycle accident because a couple cut across 4 lanes of traffic in front of him while he was on his motorcycle, and they didn't have very good coverage. They had the bare bones minimum, and they were living in a trailer on like Social Security disability. They had nothing. My father said even if I took them to court and took everything from them, it wouldn't cover it. So the house that my parents paid cash for in the 90s, they had to get a mortgage on in order to pay the doctors for the surgeries to fix my dad. And eventually the mortgage company, because all they could get on such short notice was an adjustable rate mortgage. And eventually they wanted more than double the entirety of the household's income because they cranked the interest rate up so high. And my dad's like, look, I have no problem paying you back the money for the mortgage, but with the interest rate that you've set, it's just not tenable. Like, you are asking for more than this whole household brings in. So the house that I grew up in when we moved to Florida, where, I had my childhood memories, my childhood pets, buried in the backyard, that's gone, and it sucks. It really does. And it doesn't need to be this way.
No.
It's a
True.
choice.
Really, like, we're one of the only civilized countries out, quote unquote civilized countries out there that doesn't have universal health care as their mainstay. Like,
The only first world country, the only OAPC country that does not have universal health care.
We have people from all over the country in these broadcasts and chats and stuff like that, and without fail, there's somebody from France or England or Germany, and they say,
Or Australia.
how can you live with that system that you have? How can you let that do that to you? And
Yeah.
we're
You don't have a
powerless.
choice.
Yeah, I'm one of the few Americans that are very fortunate that my health care is essentially completely socialized, and that it's through the VA, and it's wonderful. Like, I have no complaints with VA health care, unlike some people, but I can hurt myself. I hurt myself. That was completely unservice related one day of my shoulder, and they take care of everything 100%, and they're like, dude, you focus on getting better, not the fact that you would normally have thousands of dollars in medical bills. No, they do it right.
Well, a lot of people don't live with this system. They die.
Yeah.
I was on Minnesota's Medicare plan for a time after my bankruptcy and everything, and I was making so little money I couldn't afford to live. And so I was on the Medicare, and it was thanks to Obamacare that we were forced to go find insurance. And when I did that, then I ranked so low on all the surveys that or application things that they made you do, that it said, no, you you'd better talk to your county, you know. And so I got on the Medicare thing, and for a period of, what was it, 5 years, they paid for every fucking thing that happened to me. And I had hips replaced, cataracts, broken arms, heart issues, you know, and every single penny was paid.
Fantastic.
And you know, it's exactly, that's wonderful. And had I been pre-surgery for trans, I could have gotten that too.
Oh wow, really?
In
Any
Minnesota,
issues?
each state will regulate that in or out. But
Yeah,
there are
I-
some-
Any issues with the VA come down to lack of funding because they're constantly cutting funding. It's not that the doctors are bad. It's not that, there's anything wrong with socialized healthcare, because people say, oh, the VA is broken, so socialized healthcare, government run healthcare doesn't work. It's like, no, it's deliberately been underfunded because that's what the Republicans do. They cut funding to something, point to it and say, see, it's broken, let's privatize it.
Let's break it and say it doesn't
or
work.
just
Well,
end it, which
I
is what
just
they're
have
going
to
to
say that-
trying to do with Medicare and Social Security now.
They've been trying to do
Jenny
that with
was
education
saying-
for years.
what Jenny was saying
Yes.
about the Medicaid in Minnesota, that's I would not be transitioning now if I had not been able to get back to Minnesota. And I was even surprised the transitioning was not on my mind when I came back here, because I did not expect them to cover most of it. I had tried to start it when I still lived in New York, and the insurance there would not pay for anything, would not even pay for the prescriptions for the hormones.
Wow.
Otherwise I could have started this 10 years earlier.
Yeah, and Diane's in that same position. They're not only not going to cover anything for trans issues, they barely cover her kidney issues.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
And
Pennsylvania.
can we just take a moment to understand that this country is incredibly ableist, and if you are disabled, you are left behind by the system. If you get disability and you ever they check your bank account every month. If you ever have more than $2,000, you will lose benefits.
Yeah.
You are expected to live in abject poverty
Yeah.
if you're disabled. And then you have
Disgusting.
public officials going on television during the height of the COVID pandemic saying, oh, well, the people that are dying of Omicron and Delta, they had other comorbidities. They were already, messed up. It's like they don't count as human beings. It's like, oh, it's only disabled and sick people that are dying. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
And back on the
And
medical bankruptcy thing, I know several people, who were working, they were making good money, they were buying a house, and they had an accident that disabled them.
And on
So
those-
not only did they get huge medical bills, but they also lost their income at the same time. And within a year, they lost their home because they couldn't pay the medical bills.
And
Well,
on the
what-
point of the disability, like what I have, it's not so much physically noticeable. So if somebody looking at me might not know I'm disabled just by looking.
Pretty much an invisible one.
Invisible
Yeah.
disabilities are
Yeah.
a thing, yeah.
Mage, that's how I was most, for several decades. I actually had commented when I got my hand caught in the saw that it was kind of relief to have a disability other people could actually see for once.
I can totally understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways, I was kind of almost glad to see my finger get deformed from the RA. I mean,
It's also important to know when we're talking about this issue in general, that people who are that like 3/4 or more of the people who file bankruptcy for medical reasons have health insurance.
Well, I just want to point out it's not just accidents, because I have a condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, relatively mild case. But I was working a job for a couple months that it required you to stand in one spot. So I can bend my knees back a little bit farther than I should be able to, and I locked them. So what happened is the muscles really tightened up and tried to protect themselves, so it got really painful. So I couldn't walk I could barely walk for months because of this, but it's like led to a situation where you couldn't get any help because it's been gutted. It took a while to figure things out. Eventually it allowed me to go back to college for free, but it was like they would pay for college, but they wouldn't do things like, okay, you can get food stamps, but you can't get like even TANF because you're single and not the right age. It's like so I can get food, but if I have to buy underwear or soap, I have to beg for it.
When I was in my bad straits that way, they gave me food stamps too. $15 a month.
Ooh.
Well, I got
Fortunately, in Australia, we don't have food stamps. They just give you money. At least the white Australians. If you're Aboriginal, then I think, and you're in certain communities, they more tightly regulate what you can spend I think they give a kind of food stamp system.
Yeah, there's actually no stamps involved. They give you a debit card and load it with money.
Yeah, that sounds like what
Yeah.
they do in some Aboriginal communities.
it used to actually be like they still weren't stamps, but like little money-looking things that were
Yeah,
people
coupon
in.
booklets.
I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's even with the food
But no,
stamps.
we get
Each state puts on their own requirements about what you can and can't buy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some real interesting things about that. Wisconsin, when I was living there, the Republicans made this big issue for God. It went on for like a year, maybe two, in the legislature of not wanting to allow people on food stamps to buy dried beans.
Why?
Why?
Well, because you could get them in the can.
But
So
I know.
you
look
get
at
a
me to
lot
make
more when
sense
you
out of
buy them
this.
dry. You get a lot more for the money when you soak
Duh.
them and put your own water.
I remember they were
I
going.
mean, I've heard of a lot of places that they want to prevent people from buying like pop and candy on them.
Well,
Yeah, or
it's not just that, and all they do
luxury
for
foods.
is say that if you can eat it the moment you get out of the store, we're not going to pay for it. If you have to take it home and prepare it, even minimally, then we'll pay for it.
Yeah, they've tried that
That's
and it
weird.
just doesn't work.
All it does is inconvenience people on food stamps, doesn't it? Like, it doesn't stop people from not actually being able to get stuff because they can just have a friend who isn't on food stamps to
If you get
buy
caught
it
doing that, you can
Yeah.
actually be charged. It's considered
Really?
fraud.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
considered
And
fraud.
you automatically lose your food stamps and all kinds of stuff.
I mean,
There's
if we
there's
Or
people
life.
who will I'm going to take my friend Joe Blow here to the grocery store. We're going to spend $150 and I got it covered under food stamps. And then Joe Blow comes back once they're done shopping and gives you a bag of pot or something. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to stop that kind of thing going on. Or Joe Blow will give you cash.
Another
So
thing that's sorry.
I'm pretty much done.
Another thing that's frustrating with like my particular issues, because autism spectrum disorder, which often has hypermobility syndromes associated with it, it's like I'm not very coordinated. So that makes it very hard for me to do factory work. But a lot of people, it's like, well, if you can't find a job, why don't you go in the factory? It's like, I've tried factory work. It lasted about 3 days. It's like, oh, you can get time. It's like, no. Maybe if I had enough time to work on it, but employers aren't going to give me that time to learn the motions the way they want, and I still can't keep up with the machinery. Sorry, personal frustration.
No, that's my disabilities have been a very similar thing that I can do most any job for maybe 2 or 3 months. I just can't maintain doing it.
Yeah, same here. I'm not. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be good from week to week, or even
That's
possibly
my
day
biggest
from day.
thing. I can't predict what days I'll actually be capable of working.
Yeah, same here.
But
I go great for about the first month, but then I have a depressive episode and everything goes to shit.
yeah, but it's not even pain. It's just my
Just
body
everything.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I'm very
Wow.
fortunate. I work with a lot of disabled vets, and they understand. So my job is actually very accommodating to a lot of at least veteran-specific disabilities, PTSD,
HED.
and things like that.
Hypermobile EDS can be painful not watching body positioning. So, but
Yeah, exactly, Jen. If you buy a pound of beans in a can, you're getting more water than you are beans. That's why if you buy a pound of dry beans, they're a lot bigger than the can.
So Porpoise, question, but you said that part of your you said that your knees go further back when you're locking them out.
It's a
Sorry.
hypermobility syndrome. It's not the joints; it's the ligaments are looser than they should be.
Okay. 'Cause I remember when we'd stand in formation for a long time, people who locked their knees out had more of a tendency of passing out. Is that anything that's related to that, or?
You're not supposed to lock your knees, but but I didn't know I was doing it. It was the first time I had a job where you were standing in one place for hours at a time.
Oh, okay. So it was a novel thing to you at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's forms of hypotension that people can experience that standing too long will cause them to pass out and things.
Yeah.
That's not that surprising.
Okay. Thank you, both of you.
One of the things about our disability system that really sucks is, like I say, a lot of stuff, it's like I could maybe do a job for a couple of weeks. But if I actually try to work and if I make more than a couple $100, they'll take away my disability. And then what do I live on after that job ends?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Well, go to job service and find another job.
Yeah, well, like I say, though, I can't keep doing it all the time. There are going to be, weeks and days, and it's gotten a lot worse for me in recent years. It's gotten a lot harder for me to predict, will I be able to work tomorrow?
You're just malingering.
I've had my current job for the past 2 years, but it's not highly physical, so.
Is disability a federal thing or a state thing?
It's a federal thing, but it's very hard to get.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Social Security Administration handles it.
Okay.
The like Medicare, it's federal, and the feds give money to the states for their Medicare programs, and then the state decides what it will and will not cover.
Oh.
It can't cover less than a bare minimum policy, insurance policy.
Okay.
And anything beyond that is up to the state to be kind, generous, and thoughtful.
Although there are some programs that do come straight from the Fed. And like the biggest one for me, the only reason I can even survive on what I'm getting is the rent subsidy program. And basically that's the federal government sends the building owner a check that makes up the difference between what I'm able to pay and what the fair market value of the place is.
If the building owner is willing to do it, it can't just go to any place.
Yep.
And fair market.
Well, there are a lot of problems.
Sorry, go on.
The thing is, we have a lot of corporate interest in Americas who have things just the way they like them. And it's been very easy to buy a U.S. politician since the 19th century.
Yeah.
In Australia, we get a rent supplement, which is just put in straight into our bank accounts from with the rest of our pay.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I really think that's, they talk a lot about the UBI, which I do support, but I can see it's going to be really hard to get a UBI through, but I think it would be a good thing, for there to be a lot more just rent subsidy programs, just help people pay their basic housing costs if they're working a minimum wage job.
Well, we also need to raise the minimum wage and tie it to inflation.
Yeah, but they take so long to do it. The
Agreed.
15 hour everybody screamed for is now not enough either.
I mean, you can have all sorts of arguments about whether or not the minimum wage is a good thing or not, but the minimum wage is there.
Yeah.
It's not going away.
Is there an equivalent concept in Australia or UK or anything like that? Or
we have minimum wage.
Okay, what is it?
And certain awards for certain jobs, you get certain minimum pay.
Example?
I don't know. Sorry, I've been on disability for decades now.
That's interesting. So the minimum wage is not just a flat minimum wage; it's a minimum wage based off of the
No.
job.
Yeah, that's my understanding when I looked at it briefly.
Interesting.
I think it's about 25 Australian dollars for most jobs at the moment.
Well, that would also, I mean, when you raise the minimum wage, that's going to prevent a problem I think we're going to have with skilled workers who just said, it's like, you know, I'm getting paid because their wages haven't gone up either. It's like, I'm earning minimum wage now. It's like, screw this, I'm quitting.
That's such a big argument, isn't it? Like, someone's like, oh, $15 an hour, flipping burgers. I'm here as an EMT making $15 an hour. So, what? No,
Yeah.
I'm sure your wages will rise too.
They will eventually.
I mean,
Eventually.
I think that if we were to institute a higher minimum wage, we would have to write it into the legislation that whatever the gap is, so if you're currently making $20 an hour and federal minimum wage is, we'll say $10 an hour, and it goes to 15, then it's a $5 increase. So everybody across the board should get a $5 increase.
Interesting.
That would be the most egalitarian way to do it, so that those that have earned a higher wage through either education or seniority, they don't get shafted and left behind. But
Makes sense.
unfortunately, unless you write it into the legislation, it'll never happen.
Well, the other issue is that when there's a change in minimum wage, if they did change minimum wage from 7.5 to 15, you would suddenly have virtually everybody who's on disability, food stamps, rent subsidies, or whatever, suddenly not being eligible for the program anymore.
Oh,
okay, because that number has to then be altered to match the reality of the minimum wage. And that's going to be a whole nother fight because the MAGA people don't understand anything and will not see it as you have to balance these two things out, but they'll just say, well, these people don't deserve more money.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's that the raising the minimum wage doesn't just affect the workers; it affects everybody.
It's going to have effects across the entire economy. That's why it's so difficult to do.
Well, the fact of the matter is there are tons of minimum wage employees that are getting subsidized by the government, because you have Walmart workers that are getting food stamps or Medicaid, and corporations are already getting government subsidies to make up for deficits in their wages. So that will be an issue. I mean, it's the main issue I had with Bernie Sanders' plan. Like, his federal jobs guarantee is great and all, but if you're disabled, a jobs guarantee doesn't help. I liked Andrew Yang's idea of, a UBI system, but his whole thing was, oh, we will just use UBI instead of our current social safety net program. So just scrap, Medicaid and scrap food stamps and just do, a check to everybody. And while a check to people does, the homemakers and the disabled people, it helps them. If you cut their other benefits, it could lead to a net loss of income in the end. And I don't think we should be keeping disabled people in poverty.
During COVID, I have this basic premise that I'm operating off of, and that is that the United States government and the United States population, by power, not necessarily counting individuals, but by power and what it creates, is one of the most selfish nations to have ever existed. When we were in COVID and we were getting $1,400 a month for a couple months,
2,400.
1 or 2 months worth of that, which was great.
2,400.
But there were nations around the world who were on the exact same situation with COVID and were paying their people $2,000-3,000 a month for a year or two.
It was $600 a week, which is $2,400 most months.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
that was only for unemployment. If you didn't get laid off, or if you were self-employed, then you got shafted.
That first round of checks with the 1,200, if all that money had actually gone to the people, we could have gotten $1,200 every month for a year instead of it going to corporations.
The dumb thing is, it's like tying it to unemployment was one of the dumbest things they could have done because people started to realize it's like, why am I working for this employer who doesn't care about me?
I had to pay.
Well-
Had to pay back the $1,400 check that I got on my taxes. So it was thanks for the help. Like,
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about COVID is it made a lot of people think, is it really worth risking my life to work this job when I can barely pay the rent with it?
But that's, you know, I don't blame those people for that.
Oh, not at all.
Shit on so badly for so long. I think all of this thing with people not coming back for jobs and stuff is perfectly understandable. People have been abused. They've been treated like slaves. They're going to have to revolt to make some changes here.
Well, and like the floor workers in Walmart, they were the ones who were being expected to enforce the mask mandates when people were getting violent about it.
right,
You know,
minimal
what the
wage.
fuck?
There's no one else there to do it, so the employee has to do the person who says, "Put your mask on." That's you work in a place. That's the place's rules. You have to enforce the place's rules because you work for them.
You know, but that's what I mean. It's just, you know, they were getting paid so little and so much was being expected of them.
Yeah.
Enforcing mask mandates was not fun.
If a UBI was introduced, would that mean that that would replace a minimum wage?
Well, that's what some people think that it should do, but then they don't tie it into the other things, the other programs that people need to survive. Money alone on a UBI level is not going to pay for health insurance. It's not going to pay for enough food. It's not going to pay for enough rent.
Ideally, with UBI, universal healthcare would come in as well.
Oh, healthcare.
That's
Yeah,
not what-
except in the U.S. it would be
You
a
would need
completely
to.
separate. Yeah, it'd be a completely separate fight to get it through the government.
She was
That's
talking
why I
about.
said ideally.
She was
The
talking
average-
about.
The average wage in America today is like $54,000, I think, a year.
Jesus.
That's the median wage, not the average wage.
Okay, fine.
After a statistics course, there's
I
a
don't
huge
know
difference.
say
between
leave
those
it to the
two
person.
terms.
that kind of money.
Because the
I
average,
fought like hell to pay my employees the median wage of America when I had my shop, and in those days it was around $35,000 a year, and it was hard to fucking pay people that much and make a profit. There were weeks and months that I didn't take any pay whatsoever because the employees come first.
When I was self-employed, I never made minimum wage. And that's not even counting the fact of all the hours I had that were unbillable because it was the time I spent designing projects instead of being out there with the tools actually building them.
Got the average wage. We got the median age. What's the mode age? Wage.
no idea, but the difference is because it has to do with the wealth inequality in the country, and because it's so high, it has to be the median, not the mean. If I'm getting that right.
I think. I always mix up mean, medium, and mode. Like,
Yeah, I learned about all those when I was in school, but it's something that I haven't had to use for a long time, so I'd have to go back and look up the definitions of each again.
I'm guessing I'm gonna forget it about a week after statistics ends.
I'm sorry, I'll be right back again.
okie dokie.
I don't know what mode is. I know what mean and median is, but not mode.
Math.
So
The
let's
most
take a-
frequent.
Yeah, unless I go on to be a researcher, it's not going to really.
Yeah. Like if you have like 4, 2, 4, 3, 2, 2, the mode would be 2 because it's the one that happens to show most frequently.
I mean, I probably.
Oh, I got the mode mixed up with the median then.
The median is just the middle value between two numbers.
50% quartile thingy.
But yeah, just when you do see statistics like that, just pay attention to whether you're using mean or medium, because there might be a reason why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Typically, there is a reason why.
Okay, and we have a new person joining the chat here.
Hey,
Hey.
Queen.
Hello.
Hello.
How is everybody?
Hello.
All right.
Hey,
You want
Welcome.
to, take a
I
couple
am
minutes,
tired.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I don't know what to say really. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I'm 37, with a messed up past and traumas galore, but I'm a normal person, lay back, and I usually get along with everybody unless you're a complete douche canoe.
With a dog the size of a house.
Yeah,
crap,
with
you're not
a
gonna be able to get
service dog
along.
the size of a horse.
Hey, if you haven't gone through life without getting at least a few scars,
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell have you been
You haven't
doing?
lived.
Well, welcome to the group. Yeah, we've got
Thank you.
Queen's
all
awesome.
sorts of people with all sorts of things in their past to deal with. So,
Yeah, we're all screwed up here.
yeah, well,
It's almost
literally,
like it. We all float down here.
We're all screwed
literally,
up.
with the discussion I was having on Twitter last night, I realized that I think 3/4 of the people in my group have some type of disability they're dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
almost
I'm
Dis-
sure.
I was going to
Disability.
ask that actually in the chat whether it was just my cognitive bias or whether most people had a disability.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
well-
it's most of the people in that group.
I mean, if you go through it, most people have some sort of disability that doesn't do, but it's just
Yeah.
a matter of how much does it affect their life. Like,
Yeah,
maybe
and
I
for
can't.
most of us, it's just a matter of how well have we learned to deal with it.
Maybe I can't do factory work, but I can do office jobs.
Right. I do hair and nails for like a side thing.
Side gig.
Unfortunately, right now I cannot work because I haven't been able to find a job that I can do. I can't be around large groups of people, really public in general, without somebody that I know and trust, and my service dog with me. I can't sit in one position for too long. I can't look at screens for too long because of my migraines. I have a lot that's wrong with me, but I don't like talking about it because I don't want people to feel sorry for me. You know what I mean? I'm not that person.
Nothing wrong with that, but
Yep.
This is Disability Pride Month.
Excuse me?
It's Disability Pride Month, if you didn't already know.
Oh, I know
I
I
didn't know
didn't.
that.
I didn't know that either.
I think that stuck in my mind because
Hi.
the big Pride Month that everyone knows about was last month.
Yes.
Yes.
Is this Little Pride?
But yeah, I've come a long way, even though, I still have the issues that I do. I have come a long way. I've been sober now from any type of opiates since 2018.
Congratulations.
I've been off of cocaine for almost 2 years now. So yeah, I'm getting better day
Two
by day.
tough ones.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, coming onto these live streams is actually sort of trying to help me overcome some of the issues as to some degree.
Absolutely.
'Cause it kind of puts me in a little bit outside my comfort zone, which is good because I found exposure therapy helps me. And
Purple was was the very first stream I was ever on.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad I
Same
can bring some new people into the community.
Absolutely, yeah. Like
Well,
I've
thank
never
you for
had
the
that.
invite. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, you said that one of your kids is trans, and that's
Yes, my 17-year-old is a trans male.
Cool.
okay.
He came out to me 2 years ago, and he was afraid to, because when he said something to his father bugged out on him, and you were born a girl, you're my daughter, blah, 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 blah. And when he said something to me, I said, honey, you know how I am. I've been part of the community my entire life. I'm going to accept you no matter how you feel.
Yep,
And
and
that's
we have a couple other people in the group that are also have trans teenagers.
Speaking of trans men, I want to say, like, they really get shafted quite a bit. I mean, because of being forgotten. There was a case, or there was a story that just happened recently, and there was a young trans man that was at a campground with his mother, and because of like a trans bathroom bill in that state, he went to the owner of the establishment and said, basically, what bathroom am I supposed to use? And they're like, well, basically, what's in your pants? And they're like, well, I was born with a vagina. So it's like, okay, then use the women's room. He got brutally beat up by the boyfriends of the women in the bathroom. He's like trying to tell them, no, look, I was told to use this restroom because I have a uterus. And like fucking cracked his skull, like his head open. It was terrible. And he's like, I'm trans. And so in their mind, they must have been thinking, oh, this is a trans woman. Basically, it's just a dude trying to pretend to be a woman to get in a woman's space, because that's the narrative that's constantly out there. But it's like, no, there are men that have uteruses that, if you look at them, they look like they belong in the men's room where they should be, but because of these assigned sex at birth bathroom bills, it ends up causing, it's a traumatic situation for everyone involved, for the trans man being forced to go into the wrong bathroom, for any women that are in that bathroom that might feel uncomfortable with someone who presents masculine walking into their space. And violence can occur, and my heart breaks for the poor kid.
Are you
There
sure?
was
Is that the one?
absolutely awful bathroom situation that was reported in the last week or so.
Are you
A
sure that
cis woman reported a trans woman who was using the women's bathroom. She was in a stall. And the cis woman came in, and I don't know how she figured out that there was a trans person in the stall. But they did, and they reported them. And the authorities came in. I don't know what it was, if it was mall security or if it was police, or I don't know who. But when they looked at the two people, they took the cis woman out and didn't allow her to go back in. And the people there beat her up.
Jesus.
Are you sure there was a trans bathroom bill? Do you have a link or something? Because I hadn't heard that part. Because I was always wondering, it's like, I wouldn't even ask the camp manager that. I would just use the bathroom that people assume I would choose.
Wow.
I mean,
See,
it just...
unfortunately here, like,
it's
with
possible
my
there
son,
wasn't. I don't like, so that part might not be, but I thought that that's the reason why. I heard that I had heard that that was the reason why they asked the camp manager. But it is possible that there wasn't actually a trans bathroom bill, and they were just trying to avoid any confusion or complications because of all the talk of it in the news, and it ended up not going well in the end anyway.
Yeah, I don't
Is
know.
that the same story where the trans men got arrested after?
Yes.
Got arrested afterwards?
see, it's I worry for my son, because my son has a great group of friends. They're all either trans or non-binary or gender fluid, or you know what I mean. They're all part of the community, and they're great kids. I love them all, but unfortunately, at school, my son still has to use the girls' bathroom, and it's not fair to him.
Mhm.
I'm
How
sure
old
it
is
makes
he?
him feel uncomfortable. I'm sure it
17.
makes-
17, and they're still, oh man.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just hate the fuck out of this country. I just fucking hate it here sometimes. Oh.
Yeah, no kidding.
fucking Republican.
But I worry because, you know, my son's going to be going to college next year. And it's like, what's going to happen to him there, especially since he's leaving the state. He's going to California.
How well does he, in quotation marks, pass?
I mean,
trans men usually pass pretty well if they've been on HRT for a while.
Yeah, but that's the problem. My son's father hasn't let him do the hormones and everything. But I mean, he does. He's got a mustache. You know what I mean? He is bigger built.
Well,
so,
then he should just use the men's restroom and just not talk about it and just lay low while you're doing it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, at his school, everybody he's been going to the same.
No, I'm talking about college.
College.
Oh yeah, okay.
And make sure he has some pepper spray just in case.
Yeah, I will.
I mean, Queen, that's what we all of us have had to do. You have to make each day. You have to make that decision: is do I look okay enough to use this bathroom or that bathroom? Because I may get beat up if I make the wrong choice.
And I remember a lot of times before it became pretty obvious, I just went to the men's bathroom until people started to correct me. It's like, no, the women's bathroom is over here.
Yeah,
that's a good sign, right?
It's
Yeah,
part of why
Megan,
I'm
that's a good
still
sign.
very nervous with presenting female in public, that if I have to use a bathroom, yeah, well, casually, I seem to be doing okay with most people taking me as female. With the way people are scrutinizing people going into the bathroom, I don't know if I would meet the criteria.
Gosh.
Yeah, and that really worries me. It does. It scares me for my son.
And you just want to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't
I consider
fucking
myself
care.
lucky now because I don't have to.
Yeah, I'm not
myself
going to
that
do
question
anything
anymore.
in there. I just want to go. I just want to sit down on the toilet for a minute and get up and leave. That's all I want.
Right.
Well,
Come
remember,
on.
There's nothing wrong with unisex bathrooms, honestly. I think that we should move to having unisex bathrooms with stalls that go from floor to ceiling. And then if you're really worried about any assaults happening in said bathrooms, have cameras in the sink area where the hand washing is, but make sure that they can't see into the stalls. Because if you have floor to ceiling, cubicles for the stalls, then you're covered. If somebody tries to do something bad in the bathroom, then you have evidence of it, but it's also not a breach of privacy. But I will say, I would rather cram like a sardine into a bathroom with 1,000 trans women than one GOP politician.
Yeah, I agree.
Which brings me to my point. Remember, most of the people passing these anti-trans bills are closeted gay sexual predators who are projecting their feelings onto trans women.
Yes.
475 instances of unfinished business with Republicans and sexual charges. 475.
There was a person I had in my my Discord server, and at the beginning of last month, we were all wishing each other happy Pride Month and everything like that. And he started calling all of my trans friends predators. And I immediately went off on the person, banned them, blocked them. No, just because somebody's trans, it doesn't make them a predator.
That's just, and it's such a talking point with the GOP.
There's predators that, aren't trans, and then there's trans that aren't predators, and then there's predators that pretend to be trans too. That's the problem. The predators are pretending that they are trans to do
they're not
stuff.
That's not happening either.
I'm sure there are cases where it has happened.
One or two. We're talking. Don't grab the anecdote to make a conflict. It doesn't happen. Okay, there has not been a trans woman throughout history that we have recorded that has ever taken advantage of somebody else in the bathroom. It just doesn't happen.
I mean, I would go a step further and say that trans women are the most likely to fucking throw hands and protect other women in the bathroom. I mean, you're talking about the same women that even though they don't need menstrual products, they carry them on them because they're being decent to their sisters. Like,
Right,
it's,
and I
you know,
agree
'cause
with that.
So, do you guys?
the trans
people,
person is more likely to be beaten up in a bathroom than to beat somebody else up.
Yes.
absolutely.
Statistically, much more likely to be the victim of an assault rather than.
Oh,
the
yeah,
perpetrator.
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely.
so I have
I mean,
a question. Do all these people want this person going into the women's bathroom? You can want to pull that
Please
up.
don't show Buck Angel.
No, it's not Buck Angel. It's a female, to male, little bodybuilder named by Sean Stinson. They want that going into the women's bathroom?
Yeah, that's the one that's another thing I don't get about the whole transgender people in sports debate. They're all focused on women, but transgender men have a blanket excuse to take testosterone.
Right.
Who is that picture of? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Sean Stinson. He's
He
a
would whoop my ass.
FICON bodybuilding champion.
There's a couple of trans women on Twitter who are bodybuilders and are just, I mean, I can look at them from one end and just be absolutely turned on and drooling, and I can look at them also from another end and they scare me. They're so strong. It's like, oh my God. But there's also cis women who are that well developed in bodybuilding that are just shockingly attractive.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these trans bodybuilders. I wouldn't not be able to tell that they were trans.
You're awesome, Jenny.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I think, especially with the MAGA crowd, I still believe that's what scares them the most, is that they will find some woman attractive and then realize she was born with a penis.
yes,
And I think that
because
is what really
they're-
freaks the hell out of them.
Exactly.
Now,
I
do
collect
remember.
pictures of trans women on Twitter. You know, their profile picture. Nothing. I don't let it get any personal like that. Just their public picture that they use, who are particularly attractive. Some of them, they're absolutely stunning. And at some point, I'm going to start doing circulating lectures in public, and that's going to be one of the things that I show is to have them pick out the trans woman versus the straight woman.
Yep.
Exactly.
Look.
Just blow them out of the water.
Uncle
Hey,
back.
Hi
But I
guys.
won't use Blair's
Hey.
picture.
Good to see you.
I haven't seen you in a
Hello.
while.
Oh,
Well,
hey,
you know, you guys were kind of talking about something close to my heart, so I thought I'd
Hey.
come in.
Oh, I
Good
just want to
stuff.
say, yes, I understand there are hormonal levels that have to be maintained. It's the same for trans women, but they don't care. I mean, you can
Actually,
even. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I thought you were done. But Jenny,
yeah.
I can only think of one case off the top of my head where, a trans woman, or at least a reported trans woman, exposed herself in the spa, and it was like the Wii spa or whatever, but I
Yes,
didn't
that
do
was
the
not a
follow
trans
up.
person. That was a GC person who was making an issue.
Oh,
Fraudulent.
Well, the person who came to
that I
mind,
believe.
What's GC?
No,
turf.
gender critical.
Oh,
Yeah, turf.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Turf.
gender critical. One of the turfs
Transphobe.
was one of the bad guys who
oh, okay. I've never heard that.
creating a
that term before.
lie where there was none.
Yeah,
Gender-
I remember hearing about it, and that was the only case I could think of that there was anything like that. And it wasn't someone assaulted, it was, they claimed they exposed themselves.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
but you're in a changing area, just getting changed, that doesn't mean that they went around waving their genitals in someone's face. They could have
Right.
literally
Yeah.
just been changing. And I didn't follow up on it, but I know you pay very close
Well,
attention
one
to
thing that's
any
going
trans
down-
stories.
One thing that's going down right now with the opposition. I hate saying that because it sounds so milquetoast and they're so dangerous. But anyways, with the opposition, is that they are literally making things up and blaming trans people for it. Of course, we know about the groomer and the predator and the pedophile thing. But there was this woman in England who found a partially eaten candy bar in its wrapper on her front lawn and equated that to some kind of violent act that a trans person did, supposedly.
Huh?
Okay. And people
What?
bought it. Okay? That anything that these people are making up about us, people are believing because
Oh,
they
good
think
Lord.
it's so
And-
legitimate.
Right
Did you ever
after-
think that maybe somebody was walking home drunk and was eating a candy bar and sat on her front step and closed it up and set it down and then left?
Why
Well,
be
or-
reasonable?
right
when
I
you
mean,
can
I'm
like
just
it?
saying.
Or that it
No.
didn't happen at all.
Totally more likely that it was a transgender assault. On
I'm
their
sure it's
way of
definitely an
life or
assault.
something.
Yeah. I mean, did they paint the transgender flag on it? I feel like I need more evidence here.
I'm gonna have to start
Right.
doing that.
What's the woman's Allison Bailey? Is it?
Hey, why be reasonable when you can blame trans people?
You know what
And
though,
it's so
and
much
that's what I
easier.
like about my doctor's office is because my doctor's office is very, very much involved with the community, and
Cool.
they just have the same-sex bathrooms,
There you go.
or
May I
not
Cool.
same-sex bathrooms, the
May I ask
what-
what they-
Unisex.
unisex. That's
Unisex.
it. I can't think today. It's late.
No, you're
It's
fine.
1
I'm just
a.m.
high, so my brain's working well right now. Go ahead.
Can I ask what state you're
They
in?
have the unisex bathrooms, and they provide condoms, and they provide literature, and they provide free STD testing, and it for everybody. They don't, they're not against anyone. They are open for everybody, and that's what I love about them. They have
Right.
transgender counselors there. They're great. I love my doctor's office.
It's
I
funny you say transgender counselors, not transgendered. I said that wrong.
Queen, can I ask what state you're in?
in New York.
Okay.
So, my ex is moving to the area where I'm at, and she actually counsels trans folks and gets them away from those people that are fucking destroying their brains and telling them they're wrong and they need to do this and they need to do that. So she's so she's going to move over here, and it just so happens that my ex, hopefully future girlfriend here soon again, she has a bunch of transgender patients, including myself. So,
Actually,
yeah.
my son,
I like safe spaces.
my
Nice.
son's counselor is a trans male.
Oh,
Just
I
on
go
the sub-
online for my therapy, my hormone therapy.
Mhm.
So, and I go through folks, and like everybody there is transgendered except for like 3 people or something.
oh,
Yeah.
Just on the
And
subject.
the ones that aren't are as far as I know, they're all gay. There's nobody that's not under the umbrella that works there.
All right. Just on the subject of trans people who may have been a little bit off or high profile, there's one person I can think of. You probably all know her name and probably don't even want me to mention it because we all wish she would just go away.
Blair
Jessica
White?
Yaniv.
Wait, who?
yeah.
Who?
I was thinking of her. Jennifer Yaniv.
Jessica Yaniv.
Jessica
Oh.
Yaniv, sorry.
Oh, I don't
I
know
would
that
love-
person.
I would be happy if she would announce she isn't trans.
I was going to go with Jenner.
What's her deal?
I would be happy about that too. But
Yeah, I'd be
So would I.
happy
So would I,
fall off
Sinister.
the
So would I.
planet.
Yeah, Dungeon Queen Ox, one of my moderators here.
Oh, Ox,
Lives near-
I got a
near
question from your
Syracuse.
last comment. You said getting wet after midnight. Does it matter where you get wet?
Oh. Yep, that's our Jenny.
That's RGN.
Yeah, but I
I
had
was
also
actually in
lived in
Queens on
Syracuse.
Monday.
Oh, wow.
You know, that was the first double entendre I've done tonight. I just want you to know. I keep
It's
Yeah,
only your
actually,
first,
Jenny
so I
has
know
been
there's more to
amazingly
come.
well behaved tonight.
I mean, seriously,
That's disgusting.
because you got on a serious subject and close to
because-
Jenny's heart.
that's
Yeah,
because she's spent.
Actually, I
that's
do
it, I'm
think that
changing.
this stream, I think this maybe more than any other stream I've done that we've covered several topics, but we've been staying on serious topics the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, she's been.
So we need to change that.
Yeah. Well,
But no,
Sloth
I'm in,
Girl had to
I'm-
go and play a game because things were getting a little too intense for her about the hysterectomies.
Yeah. I'm actually more west. I'm in Buffalo. I'm not in up by Syracuse or anything. I'm about an hour. Yeah, I'm in Buffalo, so I'm about an hour and a half away from Syracuse.
Yep,
The
I drove
Bills
up
suck.
there a few times.
It's
Ox said, "Oh, Jenny, are you moist again? Where's Sammy 420?"
I love my Oxy.
Good old Ox.
Does Jenny become
That's my
evil if
buddy
she
right
gets?
there.
Does Jenny become evil if she gets wet after midnight?
Rex.
And we have
No,
Clockwork
Jenny gets
Rex, so,
happy if she gets wet after midnight.
And we have a Rex.
Or
Hey, Rex.
before midnight or during midnight. Jenny's not particular about the time.
During breakfast.
So we actually have a full house here. We have filled all the slots.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So if anybody else wants to come in, you're kind of stuck.
I have to give credit where credit is due.
Good to see you.
StreamYard seems to have improved. I'm not getting bumped much at all lately.
Nice.
Oh,
Jenny-
did they finally fix some of the bugs in their
Well,
mobile
look, there's
issues?
10 people on here right now, and I'm keeping up, and the sound isn't funky, and everything.
you sound great.
Much better.
I do have one
Yeah,
question
no.
though, Jenny.
As far as I can tell.
I know we're talking over each other quite a bit tonight, but are you on like your cell phone or something? Because I'm keep hearing it
I'm on
pop.
cell data and,
Okay.
in a rural location where I get I sometimes get 4 bars, but I'm usually at 3 bars, sometimes 2.
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah, so Jenny does suffer from a slight lag all the time.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Oh, no,
trying,
you sound
trying
pretty good.
to arrange my life so that I can afford to get Wi-Fi again. I'm going to approach my neighbor and offer to pay half of her bill if
Well,
she let me
She shares.
steal her
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
that sounds like a good approach.
Why not?
For streaming, you probably want to hardwire, but
Yeah, well, when Sloth Girl and I lived in Michigan, our
Can run one through
apartment
the
had a
wall.
common wall. So I had actually drilled a hole through her living room wall to run a cable into my bedroom so I could use her internet.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If you guys have a wall that meets each other, just drill a hole in the fucking baseboard or right above the baseboard if you don't want to ruin good wood, and just fucking run the cable through it. Screw it.
Love it.
yeah, just get a Cat 6A.
Put
I've
some
even
caulk on it,
drilled-
it'll be all right.
I've even drilled underneath the edge of the baseboard, so it goes into the corner of the floor, so there's no damage to like carpet or whatever. And put a coat hanger through it, and bring a string through on the coat hanger, and attach the string to the cable. And pull it through, and it's almost totally hidden. Most landlords will never see it's even there if you do it right.
Who was that?
Once again, I have to thank the state of Illinois, or Illinois, good God.
Why do you say Illinois? You don't even live there.
Minnesota, because they mandated, and we were just recently rewired the whole town for
Really?
fiber optic.
Oh, wow.
Nice. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was fortunate for us that we had the vinyl baseboards, so I was actually able just to peel the vinyl back, and then when we moved out, I was able to glue it back in place.
Glue it back in place.
Nice.
There you go. Hell
So-
yeah, that's great. I mean, if you're handy and you can remove a piece of baseboard that, like a small piece, sometimes they'll put pieces on the end of the room. Remove that one, and you can always pop it back in. It's true. One nail, they'll never know.
Who was that
Yeah,
conspiracy?
I had better live in this place for the rest of my life, though, because they're not going to be happy about what I've done to the walls in here.
Look, I did that to a place we rented. It was me and these 2 chicks. We all worked together, and we were all looking for a place to move to at the same time. And we were like, let's get a big house together. So we did that. I drilled holes in the fucking underneath the baseboards. If that landlord ever looks, he's gonna be like, fuck did those get there? I had cable running like everywhere in that fucking house.
Yeah.
All right. Who was that
Because they
conspiracy?
put it in the living room, and we had 2 rooms upstairs, and then I was in the basement. So I
Who's
ran
the-
that fucking cable all over the goddamn place.
Who was
When
that
I was in high school, my older brother Gary, this is like 69, 70, to hide his pot and M80 explosives that he had, removed a baseboard from inside his closet and tore out the drywall below
Yes.
the level of the thing, and had these wonderful little cubby holes for putting all sorts of stuff in. And then I found out where he kept his pot.
Right.
I did something similar, Jenny, in one of my closets. I cut where the shelf is. I took the shelf out. I cut the drywall. I put 2 screws up in the corner for handles, right?
Oh.
And then I took the baseboard off and cut it below the baseboard. So the baseboard was like, it slid in, the drywall slid behind the baseboard, and then you just stuck it up like that. You're done. And I could pull the whole thing down. I had all kinds of shit hid back there.
All right.
It was like a good, like 4 by 3.5 foot piece.
All right. Who was that conspiracy theorist I watched one time who was trying to say that the global internet didn't exist because Cat 6A cable only goes 100 meters?
What?
What?
What the actual?
Hold on. Wait a minute. Say that
Yeah.
one
I'm
more
not
time.
joking.
I have not heard that.
I think the guy's name is Barnabas Nagy. He's
What is it, Brian?
Barnabas Nagy.
Oh, Barnabas.
But one of
Barnabas.
one of his videos was the global internet can't exist because Cat 6A cable can only transmit signals 100 meters. As if transoceanic cable isn't a thing.
Yeah, that conspiracy
it's
caught
down
on
there,
for a
actually.
while. There were several people trying to promote it. It was so absurd.
Or T2.
God. Oh,
And
this
of course,
same
satellites.
guy.
Yeah,
He has a bunch
satellite.
of terrible. Sorry.
Well, see,
Oh.
I don't think it could work because there's nowhere to, put in a cable and have it go around the Earth. It's because the Earth is flat.
Well, he was a flat earther too, so satellite internet can't exist.
You
Yeah,
know, on
you're
a
a
flat
flat
Earth, it
earther.
would be so much easier because we could just drill through and run all the cables on the bottom where they wouldn't bother anyone.
He's a mud
You know,
flutter
like
too,
running
if I'm
up
not
through the
mistaken.
ceiling of your basement.
Oh wow.
You
Mark
are the
Short. I don't
Oh,
know if you're talking about radio internet, but if you are, we have that here, and it's fucking amazing. It's faster than DSL. It's faster than satellite.
You mean the broadcast from space?
No, the internet companies have a radio type wave
Oh, okay.
amplifier, and they push out the signal just like the satellites do. The difference is
I have
they're
the
here, and the
popular-
satellites are way the fuck up there, and it takes a minute. You know,
I have the apps for all the local radio stations that I fell in love with back in Milwaukee, and I listen to them every day on the internet. It's really marvelous.
Yeah,
Isn't that great?
You can
do
get
that?
Wisconsin Public Radio, Minnesota Public Radio, New York Public Radio, whichever one
Right.
you want. You can go get it.
There have
Yeah.
been
Pretty cool.
there have
I
been
listen
some
to NPR in all the different states as I'm driving through them.
ham operators
Good
are
old
actually
NPR.
trying to send data over like ham signals too. It's kind of slow, so it can't be. It's probably a similar technology, just not with the highest bandwidth, is what you're talking about.
Right.
Our-
Yes, I would agree
Shortwave
with
is
that.
still analog, though, isn't it? Whoop! Our pro.
Wow.
Beard.
Man, we lost our porpoise. That's not okay.
That's not
Where did they
okay.
go?
We no longer have any porpoise in life.
um,
Oh,
well
Wow.
played.
There
Well
you
played.
are.
my
Oh.
guess was going to be that a cat had unplugged a cable.
No, Google Chrome
Porpoise.
crashed.
Shortwave is still analog, isn't it?
Shortwave?
Yes,
Jenny's asking if
I believe
shortwave
so.
is still analog.
although you can have digital versions, I think.
Yeah, a lot of what they're doing now is software-defined radio, I think.
I would agree.
Well, you
with
can
that,
have
I'm
a
sure it
digital
is.
receiver, but that doesn't mean that the signal is digital.
Yeah, it's a analog radio. Yeah.
And Skits,
Right.
I think. Oh, I need to type that in chat. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, TV signal is digital. It's actually ones and zeros coming across the air. But analog radio, AM radio, FM radio, is not a digital signal. It's an analog signal with nice sweeping, complete sine waves and stuff.
Oh,
And
okay.
keep in mind the original meaning of modem was modulator, demodulator, so it converted digital signals to analog and vice versa.
Oddly enough, I didn't know that.
I am
I
nothing.
still have a super heterodyne receiver.
I am nothing if not a computer nerd.
That's why I love you.
Nerd.
Nerd.
Good for you, Mark.
Oh, I love rebuilding old tube type radios. It's so much fun.
That's
My
cool.
brother took apart my asshole brother. He's, anything he puts his hands on, he's a genius with. He could do anything, like,
That's not what his girlfriend
electronics,
said.
wiring. It doesn't matter. He can
Okay,
fix
that was
cars.
mean.
He can do all kinds of stuff. But anyways, when he was like 6 years old, he took apart one of my mom's old radios. And my mom walked in the living room and goes, "Son, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm seeing how it works, Mom." And she's like, "Okay, I'll buy another radio." The little fucker put it all back together and it fucking worked.
I saw a major.
He
gap on
soldered
YouTube
shit.
today.
I'm not even fucking brilliant, but he loved to play with electronics. Made me think of that. Go ahead.
Okay, Jenny.
I saw a major gaffe on television today, on public television. They're airing a rebroadcast of All Animals Great and Small, or what? All
Yep.
Creatures Great and Small.
All creatures great and small.
And which takes place in the 30s, the mid to late 30s. And character A and character B are in the room, and character A goes up to the radio, turns it on, and it's on instantly.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't warming up.
Yeah, radios used to take, for those who don't know, used to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to warm up before they would actually produce any sound.
Yeah, I mean,
Was Doc-
TVs, the original tube TVs, they had to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember when I was really
Too.
little, like grandma turning hers on with that. I think she had like the pull, it's like a pull button or something, I believe. I can't remember clearly, but I remember it going like the tube like warming up and it going,
Yep.
and yeah, you could hear the
Well,
hum.
Yeah.
and the bigger
Yeah.
the TV you had, the longer it took to warm up. So if
Right.
you had one of those big consoles, you better turn it on 15 minutes before the show's scheduled to start.
We were poor. We had like a 13-inch. I have no idea.
And those kind of TVs, cat's considered not television, but an electric cat warmer.
Yes, cats do love to lay on them. It's true.
Oh,
Very,
that's-
very warm.
That's what the cat considers my computer.
Ah, very good.
Yeah, that's what towers are for.
Yeah, and what's
Absolutely.
crazy about like with those old TVs, like some people, they can dissect them and take out the big old capacitor on them, and those things can still hold a charge for a long amount of time if they aren't discharged. So you can, some old cathode ray tube TVs that were used relatively recently can still hold a charge and zap the crap out of somebody.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've had people say, "Don't mess with them unless you know what you're doing. It
Exactly.
will get you."
Yeah, and
exactly.
what Mark's saying here about working on the new stuff, it's so tiny it's almost impossible. This is why I need to buy a new headset. My old one, I know it's just a loose wire going to the switch, but I took it apart and there's no fucking way you can touch a soldering iron to that terminal without soldering 4 things together.
Yep.
So funny. That's how I fix these
right.
headphones.
There's,
That's because in
new
those big
soldering
factories,
techniques.
robots do it.
There's new soldering techniques. First of all, if you're going to work on anything new electronically today, you have got to have a thermostatically controlled iron.
Solder.
Just like a clothes ironing iron, that you have a range of temperatures that you can go at, because different things require different temperatures. The other thing is that there's a lot of soldering that's done on some of the surface mount technology, the little itty bitty things that are 1/8 of an inch big. That's now a resistor or a transistor that small. They don't solder them with an iron at all. They solder them with a halogen lamp.
Yeah,
Really?
the
Yeah.
flow,
Oh, no
free flow
shit.
or something.
In fact, there used to be
Okay.
a fix for one of the Motorola Razr phones would develop an issue, and what I learned to do is to put it in your oven, bring it
Yep.
up to, oh fuck, what was it?
Yeah,
225,
reballing the board.
225 or something like that, and
Yep.
it will reflow the solder that's on the board, and
That's it.
take it out, let it
Yep.
cool, and it's all fixed.
Reballing the boards. I did that with an old laptop that I had to take out the circuit board. I had to heat up the whole circuit board. And yeah, when I put it back in, it worked fine.
Nice.
One thing I just want to say, though, if you have to replace a power supply in a PC, Do not take the power supply apart, just replace the whole unit.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Because of the
Part of my
capacitors in it.
Okay. This is stuff that I can really use tips on right now, because actually, I just bought some electronics components off of Amazon. I've dabbled with it a little bit in the past, but yeah, with mixed results. But I need to like build a couple of timing circuits and such for things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I
Timing?
just
Oh.
I
Did you say
just bought
timing circuits?
what?
Did you say timing circuits?
Yeah, I just bought a bunch of 555 timer chips and
555s,
capacitors
yeah.
and resistors, so I
Okay.
can build timers to hook up to relays to operate things.
There you go.
Well, that
My-
should be
Programmable logic controllers.
except you're gonna need something to drive the relays. You can't drive those off the chip. They'll burn up the chip.
Yeah,
Power transistors.
yeah, the relays will only operate on 5 volts. Or the chips only operate on 5 volts, and I need a relay to operate anything that's higher power.
Yeah. Yeah, my degree's in physics, and with a certificate in scientific instrumentation and electronics. So this is right up my
Yeah,
jam.
well,
I got
since I'm looking at-
Elvis boards, and
Yeah, I want to be able
don't
to
even know what
turn
you said.
on 120 volt devices. So
oh yeah. I'm assuming you have the high voltage relays that with the little voltage controller that goes through a little 5 volt.
yeah,
Pop it open.
I actually forgot to order the relays, but I've dealt a bit with furnace relays, so I'll find some surplus furnace relays in there.
Yeah, you guys are speaking a foreign language to me. I don't even know what's wrong and why I can't get my like little decoration lights to work again.
Hey!
You guys are talking about.
For once,
Well,
once I'm not the one lost in my stream on the Geek Talk.
Hey,
No.
It's me
All
and apparently them.
all I want to say-
Lost.
Queen, I know this stuff not because I went to school or anything, but I started taking shit apart when I was a little kid, and it just you remember how to do things, and you learn things, and it builds the library in your brain. But it's just what you learn. It's really how to. I can't actually take a broken radio and fix it because I can't diagnose. I can't run diagnostics on that circuit board and figure out what's wrong. But if you tell me what's wrong with it, I can go in and replace all those components and know what I'm doing.
All right, Purple, all I want to say is I'm not really sure how to help you with the setup, but I can probably tell you where to run Linux on the computer that you'll need to attach to it.
Well, actually, that's what the 555 timers. I won't need to have it connected to a computer.
Well,
They
I'm
can
guessing.
control it fine on their own.
Yeah, 555s are really common. You should be able to find all kinds of schematics out there for that.
Oh yeah. Circuit
Yeah,
diagrams
I've
with
got some
beginnings.
web pages earmarked. I just have to read through things. Mostly, I just have to figure out the calculation, because it's a real simple circuit to build, and just by varying the value of the resistors and the capacitors changes the amount of time it counts down.
It sounds like you may be able to use an Arduino. I think they're called as a controller.
No, you really don't need any kind of controller with them at all.
Yeah, with the
You just need
555s
the
are
resistors
real-
and capacitors, and basically you run the current through, and when the capacitor gets full, it trips one of the triggers on the chip, and that's what turns everything on.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking where Linux would go. So
Yeah, the NE
Now,
555s.
this
are
is
great.
old school stuff. This is what they were doing, for putting timers and like timers and toasters and things even before they had computers to do it.
Mhm.
just because it doesn't have a CPU doesn't mean you can't run Linux on it.
No,
Porpoise will find a way.
Watch
Or
this.
someone will install Doom on it.
Doom will run on everything. Right.
But yeah, as I remember, it's like R equals T over C to get the resistance that you need for your timing for your timer. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Purpose, I gotta
I-
go.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
gonna take off. I just wanted to come in and talk about the trans stuff real quick and say hi.
Yeah,
to
well,
everybody.
I'm glad you came in just as we were, talking about the testosterone and that, because you know a lot more about that than anyone else here.
I know a little bit about it. Yeah, I truly do,
Actually,
yeah.
real quick, I wanted to ask,
What?
My son is 17. What would be best, like the best hormone blocker, or
I do not know.
For trans women, I don't know. Or
Because-
not trans men.
Trans men, yeah.
I don't know because I just started last year and I'm old as fuck, so I have no idea. I didn't deal with any of that. I would
Yeah.
suggest it. First of all, of course, you could talk to a doctor, but if you want a second opinion, talk to the student Dr. Ben because he is trans and he knows a lot about it. A lot.
Talk to who? I'm sorry.
Student Dr. Ben.
Student Dr. Ben.
You can find him on Twitter under student space Dr. space Ben.
Okay, thank
Twitch,
you.
YouTube. You can find him everywhere. He's fucking brilliant. He's a going into fourth year med student, I think now. He's been in school for 19 years. Let me put it that way.
Thank you.
But he's
so
brilliant,
much.
and he's going to start his residency next year, so he's almost done with med school. He knows about it, and he's
Thank you so
investigated it
much.
like every little detail because he's trans. So yeah.
Okay, I have another question. If you don't, sorry.
What?
It was for Dungeon Queen. How close is your son to turning 18?
January.
Yeah. So maybe you can just wait it out, or if it's really that, I would just recommend waiting now because he could also get emancipated from his father if he wants to start. But I would just wait it out at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to check the YouTube chat.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Hi.
Bye.
Good seeing you.
Bye.
Good night.
Yeah,
I just
YouTube-
dropped student Dr. Ben's Twitter link in the YouTube chat. So
I also
Thank
put it.
you.
I also put it in the private chat if you want to check there too. So.
Thank you.
Everywhere.
Yeah, the only thing is I'm pretty sure there aren't spaces in his Twitter user handle. Twitter doesn't allow that.
well, I wasn't quite sure about that, so I just went and got the link for you. So
Oh, you're right. Is that
All right,
student-
I'm
go to
following
the
student
now.
doc
thing in the
Ben?
side chat, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Hey, Skits, where do you live? Generally, don't dox yourself.
Northern California.
Oh, okay.
In Hicksville, USA.
Well, that's just too far away from me.
It's a long drive.
Hicksville,
Yeah, it
USA. Have you been to Indiana?
Oh, I guess Hicksville, California. My bad.
Oh, the town's name is Hicksville.
No, you're right.
Well, the only thing I can say is that Indiana is better than Ohio because it only takes me half as long to drive through it.
Look where you're going.
Well, basically, I just have to, take I-90 through. So
Because it takes me 2 hours to get. It's 2 hours to go through Indy, or 2.5, if, depending on Indianapolis, to get to the Ohio border. Then my favorite attraction in Ohio after that is the Pennsylvania border.
Yep.
That's not fair. There is actually an aviation museum in Dayton, Ohio. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, the New York Pennsylvania border isn't much better. So
yeah, well, that's it. I've driven from New York to Minnesota and back a half dozen times. So
I think the only time I've been to New York State was to see the Hill Cumorah pageant.
like it's all like hills and windy roads and yeah,
That's not bad. I
it's
mean,
pretty crazy.
well,
I grew up in north central Pennsylvania, so
the
Oh,
problem
okay.
with Ohio is that it's just so bloody boring. That about every 100 miles you see the same red barn, and that's the only thing that breaks up the scenery.
Eat some Buckeyes.
well, pretty much from the Ohio border to Indianapolis is the same way too. So it's like I hate driving on I-70. It puts me to sleep.
That's not good, especially when you're driving. Yeah, we have a lot of almond orchards up here. Lots
Okay,
of almonds.
I'll say one other good thing about Indiana.
It's not Ohio.
Well, when I'm driving east, it at least means I no longer have to deal with the Chicago expressways.
Actually, Terre Haute has an interesting history. If you look it up, if you want to go into like the 1920s.
Have to go that far back. Huh?
And Bloomington is where Janeway comes from.
Captain Janeway?
Yes.
Fair enough.
And Indiana is where Orville Redenbacher is from.
I thought he was Ohio. Colonel Sanders was a Hoosier. I don't really get why they're so proud of being Hoosiers, though. It's just like after I
Well,
moved here.
you got
Go
to
ahead.
take pride in something, and if there's nothing else in the state.
When I moved here, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's like you moved to Indiana. That corrects the birth defect of not being born in Indiana." It's like,
Thank you.
Hey, you guys, this stream has been good for me tonight. All this talk about of electronics and stuff like this inspired me to finally dig out my camera and plug the batteries into my new battery charger that I got because the last one died, the original one died, and I'm charging up my batteries for my camera. And I think I'm gonna go take pictures tomorrow.
Fantastic.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
It's been years.
You
You'll
have to share them
post
on
them
next
on
time.
Twitter so
I
we can see
need
what you've been up to.
It is getting kind of late, so I need to head out. I'm just gonna wrap something up real quick. So it was lovely chatting with you guys and
Okay, well,
gals.
Great to
Kitty,
see you,
you got
Kitty.
anything you want
It
to
was
plug,
nice
or you
meeting
gonna
you,
be
Kitty.
making any appearances this week?
I don't think so. I don't have anything on my schedule, but who knows? Like maybe something will come up last minute. I'll make sure to let anyone know. So have a good night,
See you
everyone.
again, Kitty. I haven't seen you in a while.
Good night, Kitty. It was nice meeting you.
Great to see you,
Nice meeting
Kitty.
you too, honey. Bye.
I was planning
Good
to wrap
night.
it up pretty soon here anyway, so let's just go around because I've got stuff I need to do tomorrow, so I can't be getting to bed too late. So, anybody have any final words or anything they want to plug before we go?
I was just gonna say thank you all for having me here. I love you guys all. You're wonderful. And I am in Discord. And thank you, Ox. I love you. I am in Discord. Anybody just shoot me a DM. Usually in my server, nightly we'll either watch a movie or we'll play some games. We play Cards Against Humanity. Different games, Rift Tracks or Jackbox games. We do all sorts of different stuff in there. So we usually have a lot of fun.
It's good fun.
Queen, are you on Twitter?
Yes.
I just put my Twitter address in the local chat here.
Okay.
I just want you to have it as a referral if you have various trans issues or questions.
And
stuff that I can
as
help with.
usual, if anybody is looking to contact anybody on the panel, you can go to the description after this video posts, and it will have everybody's YouTube and Twitter links and whatever it is I know about them.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes,
It's
thank
been
you so
a
much.
very
for
nice
Purple.
night. Thank you for
Yeah,
letting
well,
me be.
nice to meet you. Come join in anytime.
Yeah, it was great meeting everybody, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Mage, have you got anything
When
new
you know
coming
that
up on
we
your
really helped
channel?
somebody.
Not this week, but I'm trying to go for about every other week putting something up. So I do have lots of things planned that I want to do. I got partial videos made, so there are stuff coming up. It's my channel Gardens Happen. I'll put the link here. So I only have a couple videos up
Sinister,
for
it's
now,
saying
but
yours doesn't exist.
oh,
It comes up for me. Gardens happen.
Yep.
so,
That's what. Okay. All right.
yeah, both ours have to be there.
There we go.
Okay, Porpoise, did you have anything coming up?
Sadly, the only thing I really have coming up is the statistics final next week, which
Good luck.
hey,
Yeah, good luck with that.
I've got an A- in the course. If I get out with a B, I'm happy. It's
Nice.
Wow, that's really good.
I just don't want to have to take it again. I'm in no danger of having to take it again, so
That's good.
unless I do really badly on the Unit 2 project, but I don't think I will. In any case, I am the Sinister Porpoise. When you think of Sinister Porpoises, think of the Sinister Porpoise. The only thing I really have coming up is the statistics final. I am kind of excited about the fall semester coming up for me because it should be the last one before I get my bachelor's degree, if I do things right. In the 2 weeks, I will actually try to get that video on Ada Lovelace I intended to do for a while, at least start on the script for it, covering the controversy surrounding her and whether or not she was the first programmer, and I'm going to have to go no, but there's another controversy about whether or not she was as good as math as people think she is, and a lot of that seems to be that there's a certain toward bias among women in STEM. So other than that, be excellent.
Is that Lovelace question? Is that a question versus Grace Hopper?
Grace Lovelace was about a century before Grace Hopper.
Grace Hopper. Rear Admiral Grace Hopper?
Lovelace lived about a century before Rear Admiral Grace Hopper.
Okay. All right.
Ah.
Then I guess it wouldn't be about her.
Yeah.
Grace was old, but not that old.
Ada Lovelace was Lord Byron's only legitimate daughter.
Oh, wow.
Don't think
she hung out with Charles Babbage.
Somebody in the ancient days?
Could you repeat that, please? I didn't catch the question. Could you repeat it, please?
I said, don't they give a certain amount of credit for some reason to somebody in the ancient days as far as the inventing of Pascal of the language?
What?
Pascal invented a calculator.
I think you're thinking of Leibniz, who started working with binary. And there were a lot of people that worked in the 19th century that could have made the analytical engine work better. One of the most frustrating things when researching this was like both of them knew George Boole, a mathematician who's so important he has an entire variable type named after him. But anyway, and they never used binary in the analytical engine or the difference engine. Remember,
No, it's decimal.
Be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Okay.
Ox, behind the green door.
Yep. Okay, Jenny, have you got anything coming up?
No, not a damn thing. I'm going to go take pictures tomorrow.
Okay, well, look forward to see what you find interesting to snap pictures of.
I've spent my life in photography. I got my first 35mm camera in 1968, and it's just been a big part of my life for a long time. So this is really cool for me to be doing this. No more damn phone pictures. I have a real lens again.
Is it still life or just nature, or how's that work?
I'm sorry?
So is it like still life or nature? Or
Anything from air shows to bugs. Just anything.
I look forward to
no
seeing
dick pics. No dick pics.
That
Or
costs
pussy.
extra.
Right.
Well, if they want to pay me.
Dick Van Dyke, Dick York, I don't know.
Okay. Got. Well, with that, then I would just like to, thank all my supporters. Thank Ox, who is here, one of my best moderators, and also supporting me on Patreon. Kitty, who was here earlier, is my most recent Patreon supporter.
Nice.
Skits Crasher keeps sending me money every month, and Junie
he
the
was a habit of
Apostate.
doing that.
Junie the Apostate, who did my avatar for this. Robert X, who is my other main moderator, didn't make it to this stream, but was here yesterday. Mark Caesar, the Lavender Lady, Greg Hartwick and Dog. I appreciate you all helping me keep things going here. Also, there have been a couple of people who have sent me birthday presents, and I'm not going to say who because I'm not sure who would rather remain anonymous. So just thank you everyone, and again, reminder that next week, instead of being Wednesday, the noon show will be on Tuesday, which will be my birthday. So
Very nice.
next week, Tuesday at noon, and then the following week, it'll be back to Wednesdays.
Skits, you send me enough money, and I'll take a bus out to Northern California, and 3 holes, no waiting.
So with that, we
I'll
will
hit
bid
you up
you
on
all
Twitter.
a good night.